GBH News. What matters to you?
I'm Jim Browdy, ahead on the 11 o'clock hour BPR. The government shutdown is over, which means Congress can be gearing up for its next big fight, the release of documents relating to child sex trafficker Jeffrey Epstein and his connection to Donald Trump. We'll open phone and text lines to get your thoughts on both. One ending, one just beginning at 877-301-8970.
I'm Marjorie Yegan. Then former New York Times public editor Margaret Sullivan joins us to discuss the legacy media's borderline rabid coverage of New York City Mayor-elect Zohran Mamdani, plus the BBC in hot water over an edited interview of Donald Trump. It's all ahead, 11 o'clock hour at BPR, GBH, and NAPM.
Live from NPR News in Washington, I'm Corva Coleman. The federal government shutdown is over. The House passed a short-term spending bill and sent the measure to President Trump. He signed it last night. The bill funds the government through the end of January. Some programs and agencies will receive funding through the end of next September. That includes the federal nutrition program, SNAP. Federal aviation officials say temporary flight reductions will remain at 6% because more air traffic controllers are coming to work. NPR's Joel Rose reports it may take several days before commercial aviation returns to normal following the shutdown.
The reductions in air traffic at dozens of major airports had been slated to rise to 10% by Friday. Instead, the Department of Transportation says they will stay at 6% because more air traffic controllers are showing up for work. The Federal Aviation Administration has said the cuts were necessary to keep the airspace safe as the agency grappled with a staffing shortage of air traffic controllers during the federal government shutdown. Some air traffic controllers took on second jobs and many called in sick. With the shutdown now over, airlines are preparing to ramp back up to full schedules. Aviation regulators say that will happen when safety data improves, but they have not given any timetable. Joel Rose, NPR News, Washington.
The Food and Drug Administration is creating a new way for approving cutting-edge treatments for rare diseases. NPR's Rob Stein explains.
In a paper published in the New England Journal of Medicine, two top FDA officials describe what they call a new, quote, plausible mechanism pathway for approving treatments. Instead of requiring complicated and expensive studies testing an experimental treatment on patients, the FDA says some therapies could be approved based on other criteria. That could include evidence that the treatment can help patients by fixing the underlying cause of the disease, like a genetic defect. The approach is aimed at making it more practical to use cutting-edge technologies like gene editing to treat patients suffering from rare diseases. Rob Stein, NPR News.
NPR has learned that the British government is withholding some intelligence from the U.S. military. It's out of concern over U.S. military strikes on alleged drug boats in the Eastern Pacific and the Caribbean. 75 people have been killed. Secretary of State Marco Rubio dismissed questions about intelligence sharing as he attended a G7 summit in Canada.
We have very strong partnerships with the UK and other countries. Again, nothing has changed or happened that has impeded in any way our ability to do what we're doing, nor are we asking anyone to help us with what we're doing in any realm, and that includes military.
The Trump administration has struck numerous boats in the region and killed dozens of people, alleging they are involved in drug trafficking. The Trump administration has never offered proof of its claims. On Wall Street, the Dow was down 330 points. This is NPR.
Good morning. With the latest from the GBH Newsroom, I'm Henry Santoro. Congressman Stephen Lynch says the Democrats in Congress who voted to end the government shutdown have undermined the party's efforts to preserve health care affordability. Speaking with GBH's Morning Edition today, Lynch said if the lawmakers had held out longer, they could have prevailed in some of their goals.
It's not just the ACA subsidies that we passed in ARPA, which tripled the number of people who could afford insurance in this country. It's also the fact that Medicaid is going to be cut by $1 trillion over the next 10 years, and I probably have 6 hospitals in my district that will suffer.
House Speaker Mike Johnson has not yet agreed to hold a vote in the House that would renew Affordable Care Act's tax subsidies. Former Massachusetts Governor aide Lamar Cook has been granted bail after being held behind bars since October 29 on drug and gun charges. The Springfield Republican reports the 45-year-old Cook, who worked in the governor's regional office in Springfield, was arrested and charged with cocaine trafficking and illegal gun possession. Superior Court Judge William Ritter granted Cook a $85,000 cash bail on those charges. In sports, the Bruins are in Ottawa tonight. Thursday night football. It's the Patriots hosting the Jets at Gillette. And in the forecast, could see some rain this afternoon. High upper 40s, partly cloudy and mid-30s overnight. We're at 47 degrees in Boston right now. It's 45 in Springfield. This is GBH News.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include Sony Pictures Classics with Nuremberg, a new thriller starring Russell Crowe, Rami Malek, and Michael Shannon about the historic post-World War II trial of Nazi official Hermann Göring, now playing in theaters.
Hey, Jim Brady. I am Marjorie Egan. You're listening to Boston Public Radio, 89.7 GBH, broadcasting on NEPM as well, and streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. We are going to be back, we hope, at the Boston Public Library tomorrow.
We will.
Pretty sure.
We will, yeah.
Back at the Boston Public Library tomorrow if you want to stop by. The mayor's going to be with us on November 18th from noon to 1, and Yo-Yo Ma, the legendary cellist, performs for us and with us, and anybody else is there at the library.
With us? What, are you playing the piano while he's doing it?
Well,
what do you mean?
I've been practicing. I'm going to whip myself into shape.
I bet you were pretty good, actually.
Well, a million years ago,
well,
a long time ago. You lose your technique, Jim, if you don't keep going.
Okay, fine.
Anyway, at the Boston Public Library on November 19th. Hello again, Jim.
Well, not again, but hi. How are you?
I'm good.
Good. That's great. So 2 questions on the table to start the show. The 2 biggest stories in the country, 877-301-8970. First, we've had 3 days to process what we knew was coming. Democrats relented on the shutdown, allowing the GOP, some Democrats, I should say, to reopen the government without protecting Affordable Care Act subsidies. Trump signed the bill into law yesterday. The longest shutdown in American history is over. He took the opportunity to trash the Democrats nonstop. Has your perspective on the shutdown and its end changed at all from Monday till now? If you were critical of those 8 senators, and now there's 6 House Democrats, has your position softened, or do you feel more critical watching it all unfold? The second thing on the agenda this morning, as in the conversation, relates to the late child sex trafficker, Jeffrey, I know how dirty Donald is, Epstein. Several women in the GOP, most prominently Marjorie Taylor Greene, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Nancy Mace, and Lauren Boebert, are so far holding the line despite intense pressure from the White House on a vote to release the Epstein files. Now that we've had more time to digest the trove of documents released yesterday, what's your take today? Will the Boeberts and Taylor Greenes and Maces succeed? Were 8 Democrats in the Senate and 6 in the House on the shutdown failed? What's your reaction when you've had a little more time to digest this, to the shutdown's end and to Epstein really just beginning? Can I give you my observation? I thought a lot about
Certainly.
this. We were discussing what the impact on Trump was going to be yesterday, and I think of the Epstein files. And is it fair to say the consensus of the callers and texters was not much? He's going to escape like he always does. I don't feel that way anymore. I'll tell you why. Now that Boebert, I can't believe we're going to celebrate Boebert, Mace, and Taylor Greene.
How the tables have turned.
Boebert has the Attorney General in the Situation Room, the head of the FBI, and she stays the course. Okay, in any case. So the House next week is going to vote on this thing. Even if the Senate never votes, and even if the Senate voted and Trump vetoes, that's going to make this really higher profile. That's number one. Number 2.
Well, hold on. You skipped over the Senate.
Well, let's assume the Senate doesn't do the right thing. Let's assume the Senate doesn't have a vote or doesn't vote to do it.
Yeah, but think about that for a minute. Think about that.
It hurts Trump.
Well, no, I think it hurts if this gets through the House,
which it will. There are going to be more Republicans voting for it.
And it gets to the Senate. I think it's going to be a difficult vote for a lot of Republicans.
Right, I say either way. They either vote to do it or they vote not to do it, in which case it's still center stage. The shutdown, despite the 8 Democrats in the Senate and the 6 in the House fading, the healthcare thing has really stayed center stage in the last few days, and I think it's going to stay center stage. And then really put me over the edge. I was reading Mark Leibovich, who was with us a few months ago, great writer for The Atlantic, and he talked about a couple of images that we're going to see a lot. This is all in one session in the Oval Office. One, while Dr. Oz is speaking, who's the head of Medicare and Medicaid, or Medicaid and Medicare, whatever it is. Oz is speaking. Trump is essentially asleep in the chair. And while he's asleep in the chair, or he was actually awake for this, one pharma executive collapses behind him. What did Trump do about it? Nothing.
It was a Saturday Night Live cold open.
He looks, I didn't see Saturday Night Live. Oh, really? Well, there you go. So those images we're going to see in ads. So a combination of those three things and plus low poll numbers for Trump of late convinces me, I think he may be cooked. I think these things are going to have staying power at 877-301-8970.
As long as we mention the Saturday Night Live cold open.
I'm so sorry I missed it.
It was hysterical. RFK Jr. was running away for some reason.
Horrible. I
this guy's down on the ground. Everybody else going over to try to help him. Trump just keeps talking. Like nothing's wrong. Just keeps going on. Yeah, it was a good moment. But that was an imitation of what happened in the White House. I just think this is going to keep going because even though these are about crimes and not technically about sex, the sex stuff.
I don't even like when people call it sex. This is violence against people. These are violent crimes.
No kidding, Jim. But it has to do with something having to do with sex.
It does.
And that's what sticks with people. Well,
Access Hollywood didn't stick with people, did it?
Well, it hurt him.
And that was pretty bad. Well, it didn't hurt him enough to lose an election.
It didn't hurt him enough to lose. But I think this is...
You know what I think the difference is? These women who go on television, who are survivors, without exception, are really impressive people. It is really... When Trump keeps... Also, last thing I'll say on this, and give us a buzz at 877-301-8970. It's one thing to say, I wasn't involved in any way, and I hated Jeffrey Epstein, or whatever he wants to say. Continuing to call this a hoax, when even lots of conservatives think this is one of the greatest violence against children crimes in American history, I don't think he's getting him any points with anybody. Do you?
Well, this is what he does all the time when everything is a hoax. The Russia hoax, that's a hoax. Jeffrey Epstein hoax, that's a hoax. COVID hoax, that was a hoax.
All the Republicans allow that. This time they're not doing it. And by the way, if it is, I wasn't clear a second ago, the conventional wisdom is while only 4 Republicans, Massey's the 4th, he's a man, in the House, signed the discharge petition to get the vote on the Epstein, release the Epstein files. All reports say there are a ton of other Republicans. I saw one on CNN last night, I can't remember where he's from, who said, I didn't vote for, sign the discharge petition. I am absolutely voting for the release of the documents. This could be a Republican landslide potentially next week.
How do you justify it?
How do you justify what?
Not releasing the documents.
I agree.
It's a real problem. Girls that were as young as 14, 15, and 16, some of them who are coming forward to talk, and then you have everything else that goes around it. You have Ghislaine Maxwell, who was apparently not just the procurer, but she was participating in some of this stuff. Yes. She's in getting all these great deals in her light sentence prison now that she was supposed to, what is she even doing there? Yeah. Why is she having computers come in, special snacks, special foods? Why, when he's asked about pardoning her, can't he just say no?
I'm with you.
No. Holding up this idea that he made. So there's this whole sleazy circle surrounding this. It's kind of like it reaches a critical mass.
That's exactly my point. I should have used that phrase.
It's the Gatsby party. It's the East Wing teardown. It's this massive, tacky ballroom he's going to build. It's people not having food to eat. It's all those other things.
It's falling asleep with your mouth open in the Oval Office.
Yeah, it's kind of just...
Actually, his mouth wasn't open, sadly.
It's a critical mass kind of thing.
877-301-8970. We have taken a couple of days to reflect on Epstein. Well, I guess a day or so. Several days on the shutdown, and I am much more bullish. Is that the right expression? Yes. On this having negative implications for the President of the United States. We want to know what you guys think about either of these situations.
And by the way, apparently they're all meeting in the Oval Office. Well, I think there's going to be a high-level meeting this morning to figure out what to do with this. Yeah, I think they're a little rattled.
Think about this for a second. There is Lauren Boebert, who is as loyal a MAGA, well, so is Marjorie Taylor Greene, a MAGA person.
She's no longer QAnon. She said she's
given up on QAnon.
She's given up. She no longer believes that Jewish space lasers started the wildfires.
Well, that's because she broke up with the shaman, or whatever his name is, the shaman, or whatever. The guy with the hairy chest and the thing on, the hat and whatever. was pardoned, of course. She was dating that.
Remember Lauren Boebert got in trouble for what was she?
I don't think we'll talk about it in the movie theater. I think everybody knows that.
There was a play. It wasn't even a movie theater, was it?
If you're Lauren Boebert and you're a fan of the president and you are in the Situation Room at the White House with the Attorney General and the head of the FBI and somebody else pressuring you, the fact she came out of that strong is really a tribute. I mean, it doesn't mean that she's correct on other issues, but on this pretty critical one, they're doing the right thing.
And for a while, we pointed out there were a lot of hound dogs in the presidential cabinet. We know RFK Jr. has a lot of terrible allegations about him involving women. Pete Hegseth, as we know, his own mother wrote a letter about how he was a horrible abuser of women. Things have gone a step too far when your own mother pens a letter calling you the biggest disgrace.
You actually use the word pens as a verb in a sense. I've never heard a human do that.
It was a mistake.
I'm upset about that. 877-301-8970. Zoe wrote us a note. This is important to alert the audience to. Jamie is actually the call screener today. He's trying to figure things out. So it may take a little while.
Oh, okay.
So be patient with Jamie, in any case. Let's go to Don in Mansfield. You're first on BPR. Welcome to the show, Don. Hi. Okay.
Hey there, Don?
Don, what's up?
Oh, maybe Jamie's having trouble answering the phone. You got the phone yet, Jamie?
Okay.
Jamie seems to be.
Well, that's going really well.
Looks flummoxed back
I think
there.
Zoe, you may have to take over if you don't embarrass him. But I think you may.
Oh, he's gone.
Oh, Don's gone.
Oh, Don's gone.
Jamie just hung up on you. So Jamie did it. We didn't.
We forgot to mention. We mentioned this before on the air, but I was talking about how there's so many hound dogs in the Trump cabinet. We've had
Explain what a hound dog is. Not everybody knows what it means.
Somebody that goes after women.
Women chasing.
Women chasing, and in ways that they don't want to have happen.
That's important.
But you enlightened me last week. I didn't know that there's one member of the high-ranking officials in the Trump administration, Speaker of the House, who is very assiduous about not doing anything.
Well, actually, our common handy woman, who is I have to ask her if it's okay to use her name on the air, but in any case, our handy woman, who is we're lucky enough to, she helps both of us.
She's coming to me next week.
She alerted me to the fact that he and his son have a porn tracker on their phones. So if the other one, meaning if the kid looks at porn, Mike Johnson, the speaker, knows. And if the speaker looks at porn, his son knows. And that is a real issue.
So he is not a hound dog. We can eliminate him from concern about that.
Okay. Now, I would like you to take a look in the control room and see who is now dealing with the phones. So Jamie lasted as our call screener for exactly 2 minutes. 2 minutes ever.
Okay.
It was rather embarrassing.
We have a call now.
Dwayne and Haverhill.
Hey, Dwayne.
Let's see if this works. Hey, Dwayne.
Hey, good morning, guys.
Hey, how are you?
Good. I just want to say I don't think we'll see a list from either side. I think the intelligence agencies are involved, either foreign or domestic or both. And I think this goes above the presidency, and we'll never see a list from either side.
Well, let me tell you, I used to think that too, or that they were going to scrub the list. But if they're scrubbing the list, one, why do we find out what we found out in the last 2 days? And two, why is Trump fighting so hard if he wasn't worried about what was going to be disclosed, Dwayne?
I don't think he had a choice. I think these orders come from above. And
who's above?
You think the president's at the top of the list?
Who's above? Who's above? The shaman?
People from the intelligence agencies.
Oh, okay. All right, then.
The president's a temporary employee. He's 4 to 8 years.
Yeah.
He's not allowed to know everything.
No, he's not. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Well, there you go. Dwayne, thank you. I got to return to planet Earth now, Dwayne. Thank you very much for the call.
Well, I think what we're going to get, I mean, we may never get a definitive list, but we will find out at some point the people that are involved. Everybody thinks Bill Clinton is. We'll probably, no surprise, find out he's there, and other people that you think might be there. But I don't think there's going to be a list. I think it's going to be the communications back and forth.
I think I think names, list or not.
Yeah.
Two excellent texts from both anonymous. Jamie's in charge of the phones. That's the guy who locked himself in the bathroom for 4 hours. That's a very good point. And another anonymous texter challenges the whole discussion about the guy collapsing in the Oval Office. Marjorie, be honest. If Jim fainted during the show, what would you do?
Well,
I think the same thing that Donald Trump did.
I'd have to keep continuing taking the calls and reading the texts and hope that you didn't expire before a commercial break.
Tamara, you are in a car and you're next on BPR. Thanks for the call, Tamara. Hi.
guys. I'd like to say that I sadly don't have many, well, not sadly, but I don't have many friends left that are Trump supporters, but I do have one, and I was talking to him last night, and he said, it's a hoax, it's a lie, we don't care. If there was anything here, then they would have released it when Biden was president. It's ridiculous. And he was like raising his voice, mad as hell.
What'd you say?
This is all
What'd you say?
Joke. I said they didn't release it probably because there are a lot of Democrats
exactly.
in it, and I hope they release them all. And that I think solely right now, everybody who's releasing anything, they need to release some hard-ass dirt on some of those Democrats to prove that we're not supporting the Democrats.
I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, give the Trump thing by itself one day, and I think exactly what you think. Today is the day for the Democrats on the Oversight Committee to release emails, assuming they have them, that implicates prominent Democrats. I'm Tamara, I'm with you. So is that the end of the relationship or no?
You know, I'm keeping him around because he is my gauge. He is the one who tells the truth of what I think most of the people who still support Trump and our Republicans are thinking. And I can get him to calm down sometimes, and I can get him to admit that he loves me. And I looked him in the eye recently, and I got tears in my eyes, and I said, I need you to remember when they talk about the Democrats that are lunatics and crazy and hateful, they're talking about me.
Wow.
Oh, me.
Well, it's pretty clear based on that. You need no advice from me, but can I give it anyway? I would send him the video that CNN plays every night of J.D. Vance, Kash Patel, and Donald Trump all saying we should absolutely release the Epstein files. He's the worst pedophile of all time. Maybe that would help. I don't know. Tamara, you're a good one. Thanks so much for the call. We appreciate it.
Well, that is a lot of Republicans are pointing out that had Trump just come into office and released these files, assuming, and I don't think there's any evidence at this point that he himself had anything to do with these underage women, he wouldn't be in the situation right now. I mean, this is turned into a big brouhaha. What's probably going to come out is he knew about it. He knew about it for a long time, and he hung around with this guy and knew that there were young women over there.
That's pretty damning, don't you think?
Yeah.
Even if he did nothing?
Well, yes, but he's already, he was held liable by a court for sexual assault.
I'll repeat the difference.
Jeffrey Epstein.
I'll repeat the difference. I don't know Republicans who, after the verdict in the E. Jean Carroll thing, said that's horrible. I know tons of Republicans and a growing number who are saying the Epstein situation is horrible. The fact that he's losing at least some of his own base.
Okay.
Megyn Kelly, is she a loyal Trump person?
Yep.
I'd say so.
Well, she's the one who said he should have released this right away.
Exactly.
Donald Trump already said on the Howard Stern show that if Ivanka Trump weren't his daughter, he'd be having sex with her.
No, he said he'd date her. He didn't say he'd be having sex with her.
Well, I think that is a really odd thing. I mean, you've got two daughters. Would you ever in a million years say something like that about your children?
Obviously, no person would say that except Donald Trump.
So he's got a track record here. He hung around with this guy for a long time. Epstein's ex-girlfriend says Trump groped her too.
Yeah. I think if I were advising Trump, and I'm obviously not, but I think it's important to play both sides here. If I were advising Trump, what I would do today, clearly, who? I don't even know the guy. Don't you think? I mean, it worked with the guy you pardoned, the Binance guy, CZ. That worked brilliantly, don't you think?
And don't forget the teen Miss Universe, where he talked about how, because he owned the pageant, he could run around and inspect the premises when the young women who were like 15, 16 were changing their clothes. So, I mean, he's got a track record here. But I'm hoping he drew the line, the groping line.
Don't you think, in all seriousness, that rather than saying the Jeffrey Epstein thing is a hoax, when I think even a significant percentage of his base believe it's nothing close to a hoax, don't you think he'd come up with a better argument about this? Why doesn't he just stay with, when I got upset with what a creep, this is what Carolyn Levitt said yesterday, because he's a pedophile and a creep, Trump threw him out of Mar-a-Lago.
And Epstein says he was never a member of Mar-a-Lago.
No, but I'm saying,
so we don't know what the truth is.
Why isn't Trump can't even control himself enough to say something that might be passable? In any case, Ellen, you're in Northampton, you're on BPR. Hi.
Hi, can you hear me?
Perfectly.
Great. Two two dates I'm curious about with regard to Epstein Island.
Yeah.
I think that it's being used as a laundromat one way or another. I'm wondering, I think it was the Maxwell fortune that came to Epstein. I don't know how I think that, so question. But also,
before you get to that, Ghislaine's father is loaded. But I don't know if that's true, but go ahead.
Okay. And then another date would be the date of Citizens United, when there began to be anonymous money coming into politics. And so I think I use my shorthand for this is friendship with benefits. You go there for the laundromat, and you find there are women hanging out there.
Mm-hmm. Why'd you bring up Citizens United in this? But I think it was 2010 or sometime around then. I'm not sure. Why? And that's right. Unlimited money in politics.
So first, Epstein gets money, and then maybe from Maxwell's family, and then money begins to be available through politics, and Epstein is there with money.
I say, by the way, most reporters who have been relentless on the Epstein beat are not able to answer the question about where all of his money came from. And I surely am not able to do that. But you have a thesis, Ellen. Thanks for sharing it. We appreciate it.
Well, the common thesis, and we have no idea if this is the common thesis, is that he bribed very wealthy people for the money. And that's one of the things that has been discussed since these latest files came out, is that he was thinking about bribing Trump because he said claimed he had the goods on Donald Trump.
Okay, so we actually do have what Trump is saying as of today about his relationship with Epstein. Here it is.
Okay, are you ready? I don't know who he is.
No, okay, that's not real. That was what he said about CZ,
funny?
The Binance guy. I can't believe I call him CZ.
I think was it Tamara who said her boyfriend or whoever her friend was that said Tamara, that it was a hoax. It's a hoax. He was doing serious time in jail. He probably would have wound up doing and then he killed himself, or he was killed.
Doing serious time.
No, he was probably going to do serious time. Epstein, and she's in jail now for 20 years. What is the hoax? I mean,
well, the jury system is obviously biased against anybody who Trump has any connection to. He makes
it sound, when he says hoax, it's that word connotes to me, it's just this made-up thing that isn't true.
Well, also, every single leader, and I use the term advisedly, in the Trump administration has railed against Epstein and called for the release of the Epstein files until Trump said, let's not release the Epstein files. I mean, it's not even, it's ridiculous.
Okay. We're going to talk about the state of affairs with the Epstein files and the fact that the government is going to be reopened soon. At least we hope so. I'm Marjorie Egan, He's Jim Browdy. Listening to BPR and GBH and NEPM, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. Taking your calls and texts at 877-301-8970.
I'm Jared Bowen. Coming up on The Culture Show, the life and legacy of Boston artist Alan Rohan Crite, a self-described artist reporter who chronicled everyday black life in the city for decades. Now, the Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum and the Boston Athenaeum are teaming up for a major retrospective celebrating his storied career. That and more on The Culture Show today at 2 on 89.7 GBH.
Our programs are made possible thanks to you.
And Boston Ballet, presenting The Nutcracker. This holiday tradition mesmerizes audiences of all ages with beloved characters and Tchaikovsky's memorable score. On stage starting November 28th. Official tickets at bostonballet.org. And Atlantic Design Center by Eldridge Lumber and Hardware, committed to helping you achieve your vision for a new kitchen or bathroom and guiding you from design to completion with showrooms in York and Portland, Maine. AtlanticDesignCTR.com.
Welcome back to BPR on GBH and NEPM. Marjorie Egan and Jim Browdy. We're streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. Back at the library tomorrow. All is ready for us, so we will be there. Hope you are too. If you're just tuning in, we're talking about the end of the government shutdown last night and the latest batch of emails where Epstein writes directly about his friend, now the President of the United States, Donald Trump. Couple of days to digest. Want to know how you're feeling about it. If your opinion has changed about what the impact will be on the sitting president, 877-301-8970.
Okay, where are we going to go? Are we going to go?
We're not going anywhere.
Oh, we're not going anywhere yet.
Okay,
I was
fine.
just reading the emails there. Here's another sign.
There we're going. Kevin and Warren, Rhode Island.
Kevin.
Hi, Kevin.
How you doing, Jim and Marge? Love you guys.
Thanks.
I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, Donald Trump belongs in prison as far as I'm concerned. But on the other hand, I'm concerned that Africans have much less value to the media because of what's happening in Sudan right now. Hundreds of girls are getting raped as a military weapon. They're using rape as a weapon. Shouldn't this be the only thing we're talking about right now? I mean, we spent hundreds of hours. The media has spent so many hours talking about the shutdown and Epstein, but these girls are getting raped today.
Well, first of all, it shouldn't be the only thing we're talking about, but I think you have fair criticism that we are not talking about it enough at all in the media. That includes us. And
international news. I mean, it's a terrible thing, but we are not very good consumers of international news, Kevin, and particularly coming out of Africa. You're right.
No, but we are. I mean, but I think part of what Kevin is suggesting, I want to speak for you, correct me if I'm wrong, is we have found plenty of time to talk about Ukraine and Gaza, but we have not talked about the situation. I have fair criticism, and we'll take it to heart, and we'll try to change our ways. Kevin, thank you for the call. 877-301-8970 is the number. Here's an anonymous texter saying, another sign that people are turning on Trump. More and more Trump flags are disappearing from front porches. I don't know if that is true. It's an anonymous texter's observation. I don't know if that's the
case. And Erica from Sturbridge has a great point, too. She says that she has a lot of MAGA family, and they expect that eventually Trump will release the files. For them, it doesn't matter what Congress members do or say. It's ultimately about dear leader Trump, and what he says is the truth. So, I mean, maybe there are some people that are anxious that he releases the files, expecting that he will be totally exonerated.
So, I think we hung up on you at the top of the show. Our apologies, but congratulations on your relentlessness. Don in Mansfield, hi.
Yes, you hear me okay?
Yes.
Perfectly, hi.
Okay, yeah. So how many congressmen or senators does Trump need to not go along in releasing these files?
He needs a majority in the House, and he only needs 41 in the Senate. They need 60 votes to bring this thing to a head. Out of 100, there are only 47 Democrats, so 13 Republicans, assuming all the Democrats stayed the course. You never know about people like Fetterman and others, but let's assume they did on this. 13 Republicans would have to join the Democrats in the Senate to bring this thing to a vote, assuming the vote is in favor in the House.
And I think there's at least 3 you can name off the top of your head that will go along. I can't imagine Collins out of Maine, Murkowski out of Alaska, or Jody Ernst
not voting to release.
Yes, Jody Ernst. Remember, Don, there was a lot of expectation that she would not approve Pete Hegseth, who was accused of doing terrible things, and she herself was a sexual assault survivor, and I think she got strong-armed, and she changed her mind. But I don't see her doing it twice.
No, nor do I. But Don, I don't know if your question or what are the prospects. I think if you were a betting person now, you'd say they can't get 60 votes in the Senate. However, if the rumors are true that while there's only a 1 vote margin on the discharge petition, and 4 Republicans, but many more Republicans are actually going to vote for the release when the thing comes to the floor of the House next week, I think that's going to put immense pressure on Senate Republicans. So I haven't given up hope that it'll end up on Trump's desk and then let Trump veto the thing. That'd be quite a scene. Don, thanks for calling us back. We're really sorry we dumped you at the top of the show. It wasn't intentional. 877-301-8970 is the number. And by the way, we haven't talked about the shutdown at all. There's good news and bad news. The bad news is there's still problems at the airports. The good news is the 100% of the November SNAP payment is going to be made. So obviously it was delayed, which is a real serious problem for a lot of people, but at least that's one positive, fairly immediate impact to the vote.
Oh, yeah, I made a mistake before. I was saying bribery and blackmail. That you could, that Epstein was thinking about, at least seemed to be thinking about anyway, the ability to blackmail Trump.
Let's go to Bob in Oklahoma. Hey, Bob, how are you?
Good. How are you doing?
Good.
What my thought was, last night I was listening to CNN, and they said that one of the emails that was redacted of a name, she had actually testified that cleared Trump in a testimony.
That's Gouffre, Virginia
also,
Gouffre.
Right.
That's correct.
She said he behaved.
He wrote a book, and
Yep.
But my other point I was going to make is I've wondered, since he has never released them, is there names in there that Trump can manipulate and say, hey, I'm not going to release this, do me this favor?
I don't know about favor, but my understanding is if and when there's a release, because this is how the release has been held so far, the names of all survivors are going to be redacted. That's number one. In terms of the names of perpetrators or men involved in this, it would seem to me, unless they argue there's some national security thing, which they may attempt to do, that we're going to learn something. I mean, I have to say, Bob, one of the things, thank you for your call. I said this to Marjorie earlier. I've said it to you a lot of times. I'm really surprised. The discipline of these women, for reasons I'm not quite understanding of, the fact that the only name we know, am I right, is Prince Andrew, is pretty shocking, considering how many incidents there apparently were.
And I also think it's odd that people that have had an opportunity to interview these women don't ask them about other men. Who are these men?
And they're free, obviously, to say, I choose not to disclose it. That's obviously their right. I feel like you do. I don't understand why those questions haven't been asked.
But I think the thing with Virginia
Gouffre,
yes, is that the fact that she never said, I mean, it seems to me, and what do I know, but my guess is that Trump was not involved with sexual assault of 14-year-old people. I don't think that's what we're necessarily talking about here, at least so far. We're talking about his knowing about this and being in this and hanging around
and doing
this
nothing
place
about it.
and being at a place with these very young women doing things. He knew what was going on with them because he basically kind of wrote that when he sent the birthday card to Jeffrey Epstein, the 50th birthday card years ago that we all saw. Anyway, we are moving on. You're listening to GBH on GBH and NEPM, BPR. We are talking to, who are we talking to after the news?
Margaret Sullivan.
Oh my
your
God.
Fave.
Margaret Sullivan, my media critic, my brilliant media critic. Not mine. She is brilliant. She's next.
Years ago in Paris, 3 armed gunmen entered the Bataclan Theater during a show. This man was in the crowd.
Et ce qui revient, c'est, j'allais dire une forme de tendresse pour celui que j'étais à l'époque. Et puis,
he says he feels tenderness for the person he was and sadness for what happened. France's national trauma, next time on The World.
This afternoon at 3, here on GBH News 89.7.
Support for GBH comes from you.
And Cornerstone at Canton, an assisted living community with services designed to help seniors age in place, offering respite and trial stay options to help during recovery or when exploring new living arrangements. More at cornerstonecanton.com. And the Daughters of the American Revolution, dedicated to preserving and celebrating the individuals who contributed to securing independence for our country 250 years ago. Resources and membership info at dar.org.
Welcome back to BPR and GBH and NEPM. Jim Browdy, Marjorie Egan, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. We're back at the library tomorrow. Everything is fixed, so we hope you join us. Boston Globe editor Nancy Barnes will be there, Live Music Friday, and a lot more. The Mayor Wu, will join us for an hour on November 18th. The following day, Yo-Yo Ma will join us to talk and perform, both at the library. That's November 19th. Here's liberal radio host Stephanie Miller on the Epstein Files with Sean Hannity from Fox News last night.
Bill, you know the funniest thing about this story is Trump's all over the Epstein files, and I wonder if they're going to release that after the big bombshell. I didn't see anything about that on Fox News today. You know what else is great about Biden's decline is that Trump is all over the Epstein files, and I'm wondering if they're going to release those. Are you covering that tonight?
Not really.
Not really. Here to talk about how Trump media is going to be covering Trump's Epstein problem and more is Margaret Sullivan. Her wildly popular Substack, American Crisis, explores the relationship between journalism and a faltering American small d democracy. She's former media columnist for the Washington Post, former public editor of the New York Times, a job title that no longer exists. She's now at The Guardian, where she writes a column on the media, politics, and culture. And again, her Substack is American Crisis, available at margaretsullivan.substack.com. Margaret, great to have you back. Welcome.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
Pleasure.
Well, thank you very much for joining us. So we were checking yesterday morning, and Fox, the Daily Wire, Breitbart, a lot of conservative news sites mentioned nothing about the Epstein files, and it was later in the day they started talking about, at one point, talking about Michelle Obama wearing shorts on a trip to the Grand Canyon about 9 years ago, and how she was upset about.
That was Fox News.
Yeah, Fox News did that. So. What do you make of...
I think Fox gave it about 60 seconds yesterday, from what I've read.
Yeah.
The Epstein stuff. Yeah, they have some unusual news judgment there.
But they're very influential, especially among older Americans. So
Sure.
This is obviously a problem. I think
it's a problem. Fox News is definitely a problem in our country. I think that, you have to sort of think of them not exactly as a news organization, or not at all like a news organization. They're more or less a mouthpiece for the right.
Margaret Sullivan, my naivete is on display almost every day here when I say, well, this is going to do it. This is the one. But I have to say, I do think this is going to do it. And the reason I do is, unlike most of the other messes that Donald Trump has found himself in the middle, there are influential, high-profile Republicans breaking ranks, whether it's the Megyn Kellys of the world or the Boeberts, Maces, and Marjorie Taylor Greens, with apparently even more votes to release the files next week once this measure hits the floor. Doesn't that change the dynamic for the Fox News et al. People?
Yes. I think when you start to get this splitting of what has been the sort of very solid, unified, Trump world, or the MAGA core, I think it does make a difference. But like you, I have also thought that there were other things that were going to be the thing that brought Trump down. I was at the Washington Post, just as the 2016 election was happening, and I remember very well the Access Hollywood story coming out, and everyone thought, oh, that would be it. Well, it's nearly 10 years ago now, and we're still here.
One last thing about the Epstein thing, Margaret Sullivan. Marjorie and I have this discussion mostly off the air most days after we see an incredibly courageous woman survivor of Epstein, or one of Epstein's people. Even the reporters who have relentlessly pursued this story in a responsible way and had as many of the survivors on as are willing to talk, rarely, if ever, ask the question about identifying men other than Prince Andrew. Do you make the same observation? And if you do, why isn't that question being asked?
I do see that, and it's hard to explain. I mean, I think that trauma is a weird thing, and we may not really understand why, women who, when they were girls, were abused or traumatized. We may not really understand the fear that they have, and their judgment may not always be what someone else's would be. So it's hard to say. It's hard to say exactly why. But when we have emails and we have names, and we have words that were uttered, it's a little hard to deny things.
Hey, let me be clear, though. I wasn't at all faulting the women. They are free to say or not say what they want. I'm faulting the interviewers who are not asking the question. And then if the woman says, frankly, I'm not going to get into that, of course, that's her right. It's just,
who were these men?
It seems to me to be such an obvious question, with so much.
No, I think it has been, there haven't, it's like it seems like every prominent or rich or politically connected person, very many of them seem to have had, some involvement in this. And you're right, we don't really hear their names uttered all that much, and they should be. And maybe that'll change.
We're talking to Margaret Sullivan.
Yeah, Margaret Sullivan wrote a great piece about the mayor-elect of New York City, Zoran Mandani. We have a clip of Jordan Klepper on The Daily Show talking about the supposed mass exodus from New York City since Mamdani's win.
New Yorkers are going to flee. They're going to flee New York because of Zoran Mamdani.
His win still sets the stage for a large mass exodus out of New York.
With this guy in charge, they're talking about 1 million people leaving New York City.
Yes, a full 9% of people say that they will leave.
Wow.
You're telling me 9% of apartments are about to become available?
Actually, you were alerted to that clip by Margaret Sullivan, I should say, Marjorie.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. I should have said that. But you talked about people in the media being freaked out, including the New York Times. I guess they should be aware of the problems paying the rent in New York, but they were freaked out, too, about his whole...
Well, certainly during the campaign, it seemed like the Times, especially on the opinion or editorial side, was very down on Mamdani. And it's, they sort of gave a lot of attention to this nothing burger scandal of how he identified himself racially in an application to Columbia University. By the way, he never got in. The editorial page, which doesn't endorse in local races like the mayor's race, somehow nevertheless managed to suggest that Cuomo was the candidate to. They've been a little, Mamdani, challenges the establishment ideas, and certainly legacy media and establishment media is a part of that. So in some ways, it's not totally shocking. I think it's going to be more interesting to see how they cover his actual, term as mayor. And, I think they'll be tough on him, and hopefully they'll be fair and accurate as well.
How long do you think it's going to be before the Washington Post editorial page calls for him to be deported, Margaret Sullivan?
Yeah, well, they're right on the brink of it, because they just said that they referred to him as Generalissimo Zoran Mamdani, and said that his acceptance speech was angry and it was laced with divisive rhetoric. But if you actually listen to it, I don't think you'll find that. So they're pretty worked up.
But it has driven me crazy for a long time, though, going even back to Elizabeth Warren, our senator here running for president, that a lot of the media, including the New York Times or center-left media, will refer to people as radical left. And when you look at what the so-called radical left candidates want, it's stuff like childcare, which a lot of people want, or healthcare, which a lot of people want,
affordable
or
rents,
parental leave, or rent control. So why do we constantly get away with that? This radical left policies. You might say that the right is far more radical in what they're doing.
And yet with the right, we hear people described as conservatives.
Yeah.
That's sort of the catch-all, very safe way to describe people who really they have some radical ideas. But the on the left, I agree with you. I don't, Trump tries to say that Mamdani is a communist.
Correct.
He's not a communist. He's a democratic socialist who won the Democratic primary. So, you do the math.
I assume you keep in touch with some of your colleagues at the Washington Post. We know some have chosen to leave, some have been fired on the editorial pages. What kind of reaction do you hear from those who are still there to this 180 done by their editorial page? We'll talk about some other examples in a minute that you've cited, but what's their reaction?
I think people are very rattled by what's happened at the Post, at the Washington Post, since last fall, when it kind of all started. Maybe didn't all start, but it revved up when Jeff Bezos essentially yanked an editorial that was ready to go, or that had been drafted, that would have endorsed Kamala Harris. Mm-hmm. And sort of since then, the editorial page has been moving farther and farther to the right, or further, whatever the grammar is. I know you have a highly intelligent audience.
That's right.
I try to use their. I think it's further. They're moving further to the right, but I'll have to check that. Anyway, people are rattled. They're upset. A lot of prominent people have left. And then I always want to say, because I believe it to the core, that the news side of the Post continues to do a lot of really good work, and they do not seem to be particularly affected. It's on the opinion side. So it's a real difference there.
Well, I was saying to Jim before we went on the air, the Wall Street Journal has had a wacky, at least in my estimation, opinion page for years and years and years. And yet,
wacky.
Well, I think some of their stuff is kind of wacky. Mm-hmm. But the news pages are quite reliable and really well done. So
That's right. That's right. And I think that's sort of what's happening at the Post, is that the Post is kind of reimagining its editorial pages to be somewhat similar to the Wall Street Journal, and the news side, which is, run by a really good editor, and has, the other thing about the Washington Post that I don't think people realize, it has a huge newsroom. It has many hundreds, as many as 800 or 900 people in that newsroom. And, it's a powerhouse. So that's still happening, and I don't see that having changed very much.
One of the things I wanted to ask you since the last time you were on, this obviously happened since we last saw you. Margaret and I wanted to know if you believe that Donald Trump was a lifelong builder, boldly pursuing a grand vision, a change agent, unafraid to decisively take on the status quo when he turned the East Wing into rubble. Is that how you feel, Margaret Sullivan?
So you're quoting directly from a Washington Post editorial.
Yes. Oh, yes, I was.
That was titled, headlined something like, defending the Trump's ballroom, in defense of Trump's ballroom. No, that wouldn't be the way I would summarize Trump.
Really. Correct me if I'm wrong about this. I may be confusing editorials. I don't think I don't know if you know Dan Shaughnessy, who is the most celebrated.
Well, I certainly know of him. Sure.
He's a wonderful guy and a wonderful writer, and he's the chief sports columnist of the Boston Globe. He never misses an opportunity when he's talking about the Red Sox, no matter how minor the issue is, to mention that John Henry owns both the Red Sox and the Boston Globe. Mm-hmm. Am I not right that in this editorial slavishly fawning over Trump's decision to tear down the East Wing, did they disclose that Bezos, Amazon, was a contributor to this?
That's a great question, Jim. They did not at first. And then when someone, actually my colleague at Columbia University, called and said, "Hey, how come you didn't disclose?" They sneakily inserted the mention of Bezos into the editorial in time to make the print edition.
Oh my God!
But at first, they did not say that Bezos had, or through Amazon. I mean, not directly, but that Amazon had been a contributor to the ballroom, the wonderful ballroom that we're going to have.
Tell us what you wrote about the BBC, which I think very highly of, and apparently from what I've read, what you said and other people, that the BBC is quite well regarded in Great Britain but two of their top people resigned. Tell us what happened.
So about a year ago, a documentary film came out that the BBC had done, and it included a pretty big mistake. They had done this editing that made it sound, it was about Trump, and it had a section about January 6th. And by editing two clips of his voice and speech together that actually happened about 50 minutes apart from each other, it made it sound like he was making a direct, unequivocal call for violence at the Capitol. And that wasn't the case. I mean, they were two... you can think what you want, and I think what I want about his level of responsibility. But he didn't say, "Come on, people, let's go to the Capitol, and once we get there, we're going to fight, fight, fight." Those are sort of two separate things. So Trump is suing the BBC for the harm that he claims was done here, and the BBC, acknowledges that it was a mistake and may be prepared to apologize to him. I'm not sure if that's the case, but news organizations screw up, as we all know, and you have to be prepared to correct your errors and acknowledge them. That doesn't mean that you cave and capitulate.
Do you think this would? Do you think this? I'm sorry.
No, I just want to say that I think we've seen too much of that from news organizations that Trump has sued. They've relatively quickly settled and given him millions of dollars.
Do you think those resignations would have happened had the exact same thing been done, that editing, to any other politician?
There's a whole complicated thing happening with the BBC in which there are a lot of political forces isolated Trump thing. So I'm not sure. It does seem like it's being weaponized, and that's too bad because, as Marjorie said, it is a trusted news source not only in the UK but in the United States. In fact, it's like the second most trusted news source in the United States, right after the Weather Channel.
That is great.
I didn't know that. That's well, we read. I mean, we're always reading these. We read another one last week. I forget even where it came from, about young people having very little trust at all in the news media. And having spent my life in newspapers and trying to be as responsible as I can be now, it drives me crazy because so many places, particularly newspapers, do really great reporting. The BBC does great reporting. A lot of places do great reporting. CNN does certainly great overseas reporting. It's incredible. So what do you think? You look at the media all the time. Is there something we could change that would make a difference here? Or is it just we've somehow lost our way with the general public? They all think that we're a bunch of liars and fakers.
I think there are some things we can do, but I don't know that we can make a huge change in the amount of trust that young people have in sort of the mainstream media. I think we can tell our story a little better. We can be more transparent about the way we do our work. I think we can educate the public about what's good and what's bad and what's false and what's not false in the news media. We can make sure that our work is trustworthy. It's one thing to be trusted, and that's in some ways that's not entirely in our hands, but we can make sure that we're trustworthy. So I also think that we need to support local news organizations because local news is more trusted and local news has been so much under siege. So that's another thing that needs to happen.
What does that verb mean, support? What do you mean we have to more support? Who is we and how do we show that support?
I think I'm talking about American citizens and people who care about the democracy in the country should be, what does it mean to support local news? It means to contribute to public radio in communities. It means to buy the local paper. It means to send money to start up news organizations that are worthy, and to support policies that would help local journalism kind of try to revive itself because it's been so troubled. As I know, I was the editor of my hometown paper in Buffalo, and, I had a 200-member newsroom while I was there. Now it's down to under 50. And you can't really cover the whole, the 8 counties of Western New York the way we used to. So it needs a lot of help.
Speaking of support, though, you know much better than I, Margaret Sullivan, that there are measures from time to time in state legislatures to give some sort of tax benefits to people who subscribe to certain media, maybe to the media themselves, some of the pop-ups, for lack of a better expression. Where are you on the government support question, even if the support is through the tax system?
Right. Well, so this used to be something that we would never want to, we journalists or people who think about this stuff would never want to touch. You don't want the government involved in how news organizations fund themselves. But, my view on that has evolved. And I do think that if there are guardrails built into these kinds of proposals so that the editorial product is left to be independent, that they are necessary, and if they're done wisely, they're a good idea.
How do you assure that they're left to be independent, to use your words, when you know that newspaper knows that they couldn't exist without the support of their state, for example? How do you do that?
Well, the tax, New York State just did this maybe last year, and the policy, the measure was written so that it was. I can't tell you the exact parameters, but it was made to resist political pressure.
Great.
Margaret Sullivan,
really
I so enjoyed talking to you and so
much.
enjoyed reading your stuff. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. We really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Be well.
We have been speaking with Margaret Sullivan, foreign media columnist for the Washington Post, public editor, former public editor at the New York Times, a job title that no longer exists. She's now at The Guardian, and she writes a column on the media, politics, and culture, and her Substack.
Subscribe, it's great.
Yeah, it is absolutely. American Crisis, available at margaretsullivan.substack.com. Thanks again to Margaret Sullivan, margaretsullivan.substack.com. Okay, we say goodbye to those of you listening on NEPM. Thank you for tuning in. Make sure to tune in to the fabulous 413 starting at 3 o'clock this afternoon. Our show continues here in Boston, coming up after the new news on 89.7 GBH. Former Massachusetts Public Safety Secretary Andrea Cabral will zoom in. I'm Marjorie Egan. He's Jim Browder. You're listening to BPR and GBH and NEPM, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News.
You're listening to Boston Public Radio with Jim Braude and Marjorie Egan. Just ahead, more smart conversation about what's going on in our community. Stay with us here on GBH 89.7.
Funding for our programs comes from you.
And the Cape Cod Foundation, committed to building resources to support community life on Cape Cod, including environmental conservation, arts and culture, and community development. Learn more at capecodfoundation.org. In the wake of a shooting spree at 2 abortion clinics near Boston, leaders on opposing sides of the debate meet in secret and discover they have more in common than they think. Watch Local USA, Public Enemies, Private Friends, tonight at 9 on GBH2.
You're listening to 89.7 WGBH HD1 Boston. Online at gbhnews.org. GBH News. What matters to you?
I'm Jim Braude, head on Hour 2 of BPR. Former Massachusetts Public Safety Secretary Andrea Cabral joins us. We'll get her thoughts on the latest release of Epstein documents and why the Supreme Court refused to take a case that could have overruled their same-sex marriage decision of several years ago.
I'm Marjorie Egan, then education improvement nonprofit EdVesters CEO Marinell Rousmaniere joins us to talk about their work and to announce the local school's winner of their annual $100,000 prize. Plus, Edgar Herwick III joins us with some of the latest dispatches from GBH's Curiosity Desk. It's all next in hour number 2 of BPR 89.7 GBH.
Live from NPR News, I'm Lakshmi Singh. With the federal government shutdown over, full SNAP food benefits are being restored. But NPR's Jennifer Ludden reports anxiety over the funding pause are expected to linger.
Jacqueline Giamona and her 2 kids rely on SNAP for nearly all their groceries, and the past 2 weeks without it were tough. She says depriving low-income people of a necessity like food was an abuse of power.
People are going to distrust the government, and I think people are going to be really angry about it for a long time.
Advocate Crystal Fitzsimons with the Food Research and Action Center would like Congress
that this could be used as a negotiating tactic again.
She and others do see one positive. They say all the attention has shown just how vital SNAP is for so many people. Jennifer Ludden, NPR News, Washington.
The Eiffel Tower is lit in France's colors, blue, white, and red, as the country observes the 10th anniversary of terrorist attacks in Paris. Commemorations are being held at the sites where a group of ISIS gunmen and suicide bombers targeted crowds at the Bataclan Concert Hall, the stadium, and nearby cafes. 132 people died, hundreds were injured. Tributes include a new memorial garden across City Hall. On Wednesday night, a day after Iraqis voted in parliamentary elections, initial results are in. A coalition led by the country's current prime minister has won the most seats. Here's Jane Araf with more.
Iraq's election commission announced that a political bloc led by Prime Minister Mohammed Shia Soudani won the most seats. But in the Iraqi system, whoever can form the biggest coalition after voting chooses the prime minister. So Soudani will have to persuade other parties to join him to be able to keep the job. Soudani thanked the Iraqi people for his election win. And he called on political parties to put the country's interests before their own. Influential Shia leader Muqtada Sadr, whose movement gained the biggest number of seats in the last parliament, boycotted this election. For NPR News, I'm Jane Araf in Amman.
Oklahoma Governor Kevin Stitt has taken the rare step of commuting the sentence of a death row inmate shortly before he was to be executed by lethal injection this morning. A state parole board had recommended the Republican governor spare Tremaine Wood's life. Wood was convicted for his role in the 2002 death of a 19-year-old man during a botched robbery. He maintains his brother, who died serving a life sentence in prison, killed Ronnie Whiff, a migrant farm worker from Montana. At last check on Wall Street, the Dow is down 433 points, or nearly 1% at 47,819. This is NPR News.
Good afternoon. With the latest from the GBH Newsroom, I'm Henry Santoro. Massachusetts has a new public safety secretary. Her name is Gina Kwan. Governor Maura Healey made the appointment this week. Kwan had been serving as Undersecretary for Law Enforcement at the Executive Office of Public Safety and Security since February 2023. She also worked very closely with Governor Healey when the governor was Attorney General. Kwan served as Chief of the Criminal Bureau at the Office of the Massachusetts Attorney General, where she led major criminal investigations and prosecutions. She replaces Governor Baker appointee Terrence Reedy, who has retired. And that blade that fell from a 300-foot-tall wind turbine into a Cape Cod cranberry bog last week, it's still there. The Cape Cod Times reports the blade, about the size of a 10-story building, lies sprawled like a stranded whale in the sea of cranberry vines in Plymouth near the Bourne border. Officials at the Plymouth Fire Department say there were no injuries. The downed blade poses no danger to the public, and it's still unclear what caused that blade to come down and how long it will remain where it is. In sports, the Bruins are in Ottawa tonight, and Thursday night football, it's the Patriots hosting the Jets at Gillette. In the forecast, we could see some rain this afternoon, high in the upper 40s, partly cloudy, mid-30s overnight, mostly sunny, mid-40s tomorrow as well as Saturday. 47 degrees in Boston right now. I'm Henry Santoro. This is GBH News.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include Fisher Investments. As a fiduciary, Fisher Investments is obligated to act in their client's best interest. Learn more at FisherInvestments.com. Investing in securities involves the risk of loss. This is NPR.
Welcome to hour number 2 of Boston Public Radio. Jim Brady and Marjorie Egan, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. We're going to be back at the library tomorrow. Our problems are fixed. Ask the Mayor. Michelle Wu will be with us November 18th from noon to 1. And the legendary cellist Yo-Yo Ma performs at the Boston Public Library on November 19th. What is so funny?
I urged one of our colleagues to fix a mic problem, and they were referencing the fact that, here's what they said. Do you want me to fix the mic first or get you a Cobb salad first? Yeah, it is true, yes, sir. We did ask our colleagues. I thought relatively nicely. Yeah. Maybe not.
Right.
If they could, you know why we had to do that?
Because we had to rush back from the library
and we didn't
have any food.
Exactly.
Okay.
So the answer is, could you give me the Cobb salad first and then? Thank you very much. In any case, we're joined now via Zoom by Andrea Cabral. I was kidding, by the way. Don't send text. She's the former sheriff. I'm not that kidding. She's the former sheriff of Suffolk County and former Massachusetts Secretary of Public Safety. Hello there, Andrea.
Hi, Jim. Hi, Marjorie.
Hey.
Hey, Andrea Cabral, great to talk to you again. So tell us what's going on with Letitia James and James Comey. He's run the FBI. She's the AG of New York State. Trump is going after both of them. They've been indicted, but they're trying to get their cases thrown out. What's happening?
Well, yes, they've both filed motions to dismiss their cases, and it's sort of an unusual format for the argument. The argument before a federal district court judge is going to be Comey's lawyers and Letitia James's lawyers arguing jointly, which really is, I'm sure the court is doing it out of efficiency because they're essentially making the same argument as to why the cases should be dismissed, namely that the U.S. attorney that indicted them, Lindsay Halligan, is serving illegally as the U.S. attorney. So for people who don't know, if the president appoints someone to be U.S. attorney, they have 120 days between the time of the appointment forward to get them confirmed, right? They can't, after 120 days, you have to be confirmed by the Senate, right? You can't stay longer than 120 days. And Lindsay Halligan they're essentially saying, has overstayed her welcome. I'll use James Comey as the example, Comey's case. Comey, the person who did the investigation, the U.S. attorney who did the investigation on Comey, was Eric Siebert. He was the U.S. attorney when that investigation happened. Siebert's investigation found that there was no basis to indict Comey. Trump didn't like that answer and essentially said publicly in a social media post that Pam Bondi needed to get off her butt and indict him anyway. Within days of that post, Eric Siebert resigned. I assume he resigned because they were going to fire him. And Lindsay Halligan, an attorney who has represented Trump personally in his personal legal travails, and who has no prosecutorial experience, she's essentially an insurance attorney. He appointed Lindsay Halligan, and then within days of that, Comey was indicted. And that was just the day before the statute of limitations was due to expire on whether or not he could be indicted. So the whole thing stinks. The whole thing is just an absolute, complete disgrace. But the bottom line is that when Siebert was appointed, the 120 days started running. The fact that Siebert left and Pam Bondi then appointed Lindsay Halligan, Comey's lawyers are arguing that doesn't start the 120 days to run again. You simply have to get whoever you have that replaces Siebert has to be confirmed within that 120 days. Otherwise, any AG, and Pam Bondi would certainly be one to do this, any AG could simply keep appointing interim attorneys, U.S. attorneys, 120 days after 120 days, and they never have to face Senate confirmation. Yeah. It's a really strong argument.
So let me just be clear. The argument about Halligan unlawfully serving is what's before the court now. I don't know if it's the proper terminology, but the selective prosecution thing, or whatever you want to call it, is a separate deal. Am I right about that?
Yes.
Okay.
So there's also arguments around selective, vindictive, malicious prosecution.
Okay. Now, even though I don't think there's ever been, to my knowledge, you're the former prosecutor, I've never heard of a situation where a chief executive is as overt publicly in his or her desire to instruct, in quotes, his or her attorney general, even though they're not his or her attorney general, the United States or a state's attorney general to indict someone. But those cases, which and nobody could argue that Bondi did it for any reason other because she was ordered publicly by the president of the United States to do it, those cases are rarely successful. So I guess my question for you is this one so out there that the likelihood of success on that issue, when ultimately that's heard, is greater than it would ordinarily be? Do you understand what I'm saying there?
Yeah, I do. And I think there is definitely a difference. I mean, I'm sure people have alleged, malicious prosecution before and have cited things like, I once had a negative interaction with the president, so it must be the president that's behind this. Trump has made it very clear that he's behind this. He couldn't have made it more clear. You don't even have to make sort of a tangential argument or bootstrap the so-called malice through a series of, different connections. It's very direct and very overt. So there's definitely that. Lindsay Halligan's other issue is that, along with Comey and James challenging her in court, there's a government watchdog group that is also asking the state bar in in Florida, and there's another state, to investigate her because they're alleging that she broke rules in making these indictments, that she broke rules around lawyers' ethical conduct as well. And, while it remains to be seen what the specifics of that are, the fact that following an investigation by the DOJ that found that there was no basis to indict Jim Comey, she managed to get an indictment within a couple of days of her appointment. That does call into question the ethics around how that was obtained.
When you mentioned a proceeding before a bar association, my favorite proceeding before a bar association in recent times was Sidney Powell, who many people know. She was one of the lawyers who was lying pretty regularly for Donald Trump.
She just got pardoned, didn't she?
She was just pardoned. Yeah. But do you remember, either of you, one of the states that was trying to disbar, I think it was Michigan. Do either of you remember this is true, what the argument of her lawyer was to prevent her disbarment? What was it?
That no one in their right mind would believe her.
Exactly.
She said.
That's what he said about his own client, that nobody would have ever believed what she was saying, so it shouldn't be held against her.
But millions of Americans did.
It's unbelievable. That's a hell of a defense. We're talking to Andrea Cabral. Andrea, we've talked about it on the show a lot. I shouldn't say everybody knows. Clarence Thomas in the Dobbs case, in a concurring opinion, well, that was the thing that repealed Roe v. Wade, said, oh, by the way, we should take a look at a same-sex marriage decision by the court.
And birth control.
As well. Was birth control too?
Birth control was in there, yes, it was.
And there was an opportunity for the Supreme Court to take a case which at least some court observers say would give them a chance to overturn Obergefell, the same-sex marriage ruling, and they chose not to. My understanding is you only need 4 justices to take a case, which means that at least half the conservatives of the 6 decided not to. Is that on the merits, or because if they wanted to repeal same-sex marriage, they want a stronger case than the one that was before them?
Well, I'm at the point now with this Supreme Court majority, I assume the worst. So I don't think that it is necessarily on the merits of it. I wouldn't trust them at all where that's concerned. I think it's just that the facts of this particular case didn't lend themselves for them to overturn such a significant, and what they have to know will be a wildly unpopular decision, based on the fact that Kim Davis, who was a Kentucky county clerk, who was acting in her capacity as a government official, essentially said, I'm not issuing a marriage license to 2 gay people because I don't believe in it. My religion tells me, it's wrong, and so I won't do it. Those are not the facts you want to take up if you're going to overturn it. It may be the facts you want to take up if you're going to want to say, yes, she was absolutely wrong. So my feeling is that people should not kid themselves if a more perfect case comes before them, or one that they think that the facts lend themselves to, something they can hide behind. I think they will take it. So I think this is a respite. It is certainly not indicative, I think, or foreshadowing in any way what they might do on stronger facts.
I wasn't going to bring this up, but in light of your characterization, at least your view of this court, where are you on the tariff case, where they just heard oral argument, which obviously is huge? And I think most objective observers, assuming there are any, believe that the emergency declaration that Trump is using to say he had to do the tariff gave him the power to tax people, which is what tariffs are, which otherwise would be the province of the Congress, that the emergency doesn't really exist because the trade deficit issue, which he started with, is 50 years in a row. We've had trade deficits. Do you think they can contort themselves into such a pretzel that they can rule for him on this too?
Well, there's a reason why there's a saying that the law is an ass. And it really isn't that the law is an ass. Sometimes it's the people who interpret the law. And I think that if they really want to, they will. The only thing with this particular majority that I think mitigates against Trump victories are whether or not their other interests, the interests of the people who give them the vacations and the trips on the yachts and the private, or their conservative, the ones that feed their conservative leanings or are willing to financially back their ultra right-wing leanings, are being served. I think those are the only other competing interests. I don't think the interests of the American people fall anywhere in there anymore. But it's very clear that there is no emergency that should allow a president of the United States to unilaterally impose tariffs. There is no emergency that should allow him to simply start this massive roundup and deportation effort and incarceration effort of undocumented immigrants. And yet, those kinds of things, it certainly in the interim, the Supreme Court has allowed him to do. So I've lost complete faith in this majority doing anything that the law would fairly and rightly or explicitly require. I think there just has to be a disincentive to keep them from ruling in Trump's favor.
We're talking to Andrea Cabral.
Andrea, go back over the years, like 10 years ago, I remember thinking Donald Trump, the candidate then, was going to be cooked when he ridiculed a disabled reporter from the New York Times. I thought he was going to be cooked when he ridiculed John McCain, said he liked his heroes not to get caught, et cetera, et cetera. There have been so many times I thought, okay, this is the final straw. And of course, I've been wrong every single solitary time. But we thought there might be a little blood in the water with these Epstein files, particularly since at least a few Republicans seem unlikely to do his bidding, and that the whole mess of this horrible, tragic scandal might somehow matter? What do you think?
Well, it's really difficult with a straight face at this point to say that there's anything that will suffice to get the institutions that are supposed to function in concert as a democracy, or any of the people who on whose shoulders those institutions rest, to actually do something to stop this man. So it's really difficult to kind of say that with a straight face. The only thing that's interesting to me about the Epstein thing, because I've been reading about his connection to Epstein long before he was president.
Yeah.
Epstein was a good friend of his. I mean, he's on videotape partying with the guy, pointing at these young girls and making comments about them and laughing and joking. Come on. He's clearly in the records. He's been to the guy's house a bunch of times on his plane. He's been at Mar-a-Lago. The fact that Jeffrey Epstein's emails simply confirm that, I don't know if that's going to be enough. The only thing that makes it even slightly interesting is that there seems to be, not that I'm in tune with the MAGA base, but there seems to be a significant portion of the MAGA base that really is interested in this.
That's the difference
and
to me.
Seems to want the truth to come out. But his response to everything is that it's a hoax. COVID was a hoax. The Epstein relationship is a Democratic hoax. The Russia interference and his contact and his connections with Russia to, rig the election, that was a hoax. It's a standard response, and people just keep reporting. He says it. He gets reported. People accept it. So I don't, like I said, I don't have a lot of faith here. But it will be interesting to see whether or not what the impact of this is in terms of his own base. That said, as I've said many times, his base helped get him elected, but it was the 90 million that didn't vote that actually got him elected.
Well, beyond what you said, and I'm in total agreement with about the little bit of a difference is the MAGA base here. That old tired saying, the cover-up is worse than the crime? I think his resistance, when people begin to hear that his White House is strong-arming the Boeberts of the world, and after this vote happens next week, which I think is going to have a pretty significant majority in the House, when the fall-in-line Republicans in the Senate, if they say they're not going to go along with the House, and Trump is asked, would he veto if it gets to you? And I assume he's going to say yes. I think this has more staying power. I've been wrong like Marjorie's been wrong, but I think that the political dynamic, that it's not just one side against the other, as almost everything is, makes this a little bit different. I hope I'm right about that.
But it does make you wonder, if the GOP base in Congress, the senators and the reps say, this is where I draw the line, doesn't that sort of highlight all the places they haven't drawn the line up till now?
Yes.
And if this is where we are, we got here because you couldn't draw the line years ago when the first things that came to light happened. So shame on all of you.
Yeah, but I agree with that, with one however, and it's hard to rank the crimes in this instant, but this kind of violence against underage women really almost stands on its own. I'm not in any way minimizing any of the other things that are illegal or unconstitutional or unethical or immoral by this president or his people. But this is, it's sort of like the Catholic Church deal. There are a lot of horrible things, but that really took the cake. So I am of the belief that this may be the worst, particularly when you know that there are so many women who were brutalized by Epstein and his guys, and they have to listen to Donald Trump whenever he speaks talk about the Epstein hoax. Can you imagine? The trauma you have to have from what happened to you to begin with being reignited because of a president who cares about nobody alive except himself. I just hope it's different. In any case, we're talking.
Yeah, I would hope that they would have thought that when it came to a minor or any woman who was, raped, being forced to carry a child to term, and they didn't seem to be bothered by the violence involved and the trauma involved with that. So that, this would be a big leap for them. But, maybe you're right, Jim.
No, that's sadly a very good point.
It'd be a big leap. I shouldn't be laughing. It's not funny. Okay, let's move on to this other case. People may remember this. This was a big story in the news, about all these body parts stolen from this Harvard morgue. The woman that was involved she's from Salem, expected to plead guilty to a federal charge in the case. There was this Peabody shop involved called Cat's Creepy Creations.
Doesn't she own it, or isn't that her joint? Yeah, I think so.
This is a very strange story. Selling body parts that wound up in stores. I mean,
yeah.
Yeah.
Excellent analysis,
she's only
Andrea.
pleading guilty. Her name is McLean. I think she's only Kim McLean. I think
Katrina.
She's only pleading guilty to one count of transportation of stolen goods, which actually makes the story even weirder because the stolen goods in this case are body parts. But there people, as we've mentioned other times for different things on the show, there is an underground market for everything in this country. Whatever it is that you want to buy, sell, trade, whatever it is, you can find a market and an audience for it, and that's essentially what she did. So, the guy who was running the morgue and his wife are the primary actors in this. It's people who donate their body parts or give consent for their relatives' body parts, deceased relatives' body parts, to be used for medical research. That's something that the morgue has control over, and these body parts and bodies are supposed to be cremated, and what he and his wife were essentially doing was selling them on the open market. And this woman, McLean, was one of the people who bought any one of a number of different body parts, some of which she displayed in her store, and others that she sold to other customers around the country.
Of all the sick things, I know I just made a mistake trying to rank crimes, but this is real. By the way, Cedric Lodge is the guy's name, and he not only was fired by Harvard, he's, I think, pled guilty to whatever federal charges were brought against him. I don't know about his wife.
Did you mention the books covers made of skins? Human skin. Ooh.
Well, can you imagine who are people who are buying body parts? What's up with that? Did you ever encounter that in your prosecutorial career? Really?
No, thankfully, and I had a lot of really unusual cases, but thankfully, to the best of my memory, none of them involved body parts at all. So I guess I should be grateful for that.
Yeah, I guess if you went into the store, you could see some of them on display, right?
Yeah, some of them
like
were
a skull with a nice, pretty Easter bonnet on it, kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah, it's for people who are into that. People who, some of it is occult stuff. Some of it is just people who like the unusual. Some of it is people who use that kind of stuff in whatever rituals or rites they participate in. But the name of the store is Cat's Creepy Creations, so it's not like he wasn't warning people.
Yeah.
So we've never asked you, I just realized based on what you said, what's the weirdest case you ever prosecuted? We never asked you this question all the years we've all known each other.
That's right, we should have.
What was it?
I actually can't say it on the air.
No, come on.
No, if I do, you're going to get fined.
We are?
Well,
okay.
Well, you're going to get, at a minimum, you're going to get a lot of texts and calls because it's really quite awful.
Okay. Well, I'm
nasty.
Seeing you in person tomorrow, Andrea, and you can whisper it to me off the air, not in the air.
What's the weirdest case you ever covered? You covered a lot of murder trials and things.
Well, they're so awful.
Oh, I know
sad.
the one it is. We're not making light of this, by the way.
What?
The ravioli guy, was that the one?
Oh, yeah, the guy who killed his wife because she
burnt the ravioli?
Burnt the ziti. Was
ziti?
Yeah.
Oh, I remember that.
Yeah, and he impaled her heart and lungs in the backyard.
That was in Middlesex. That was in Middlesex County, and I think Tom Riley, who was the DA, took that case personally and personally prosecuted it.
Well,
he did. He staked her organs on the front lawn.
That's right.
Yeah.
The ziti killer.
I think I actually remember reading your column about Riley prosecuting the case himself.
Yeah.
Because of
Tom Riley prosecuted the worst case I ever covered, which was murdered children. Those are the worst ones. Remember that one in Townsend when this guy that was mentally ill, obviously, killed the mother and who was pregnant and the two children?
Edward O'Brien.
No, that was
Eddie
different.
O'Brien is the guy who stabbed his best friend's mother like 80 times.
Yeah. The children was in Townsend. The Eddie O'Brien was in Somerville. I went out with somebody the other night, and we got talking. Oh no! Actually, I was at the hospital getting some routine tests done, and the nurse and I went into a long thing. I was there for half an hour talking about different murder cases.
Can we get her on?
It of course started with the Karen Reed case, and then it just segued from there. Isn't it incredible? And we get to go in a second.
Yeah.
But isn't it incredible? I always found this incredible. I love to cover trials. And you were a prosecutor, so you know better than I do. But you would look at this person who generally comes to court, and they're dressed up. If they're a guy, they're in a nice suit. They've got their hair cut. And you look across from him, and you say, how could this person sitting here have chopped somebody up into a million pieces and, turned them into a souffle or something like that? You know what I mean? Isn't it incredible?
I'm just, all my years as a prosecutor, I never say that. The way a person looks has nothing to do with it. And the ZD killer is a good example. So we say he killed her because she burnt the ZD. No. He was beating her and terrorizing her for years. Yeah. He just that was that day's pretext. And he ended up, absolutely slaughtering her. But the way a person looks is no indication whatsoever as to what they're capable of.
It's true. I always fell for it. There they are, looking good in their suit, and they're all dressed up. And
clutching a rosary, holding a Bible. The whole thing.
Okay. Andrea, it's great to see you.
Good to see you.
That's why you're the prosecutor. You didn't fall for it for 2 seconds.
Exactly.
So. Andrea, I'll see you tomorrow. Thank you.
Okay. Bye-bye.
We've been speaking with former Suffolk County Sheriff and former Massachusetts Secretary of Public Safety, Andrea Cabral. Coming up next, there's a nonprofit aimed at bettering education in Boston just awarded their 20th School on the Move Prize, giving $100,000 to Bradley Elementary School in East Boston. We're not only going to talk to the group CEO and the principal from the school, but we're going to talk to the outstanding student. We just met her. This is going to be really fun. I'm Marjorie Egan. He's Jim Browdy. Listen to BPR 89.7 GBH, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News.
Self-driving vehicles are already buzzing around in San Francisco, Phoenix, and Austin. Could Boston be next? I'm Jeremy Siegel. This Monday, we're hosting a live panel discussion with transit experts about autonomous vehicles, how they work, if they're safe, and how lawmakers plan to regulate them in Massachusetts. Join us at the Boston Public Library, Monday, November 17th at noon. More information at gbh.org/events.
Our programs are made possible thanks to you.
And Forge Heat Pumps in Newton. Forge's in-house team designs and installs all-in-one heat pump systems that deliver heating and cooling year-round. Details at forgeheatpumps.com. And Gordon College, presenting Gordon's Christmas Gala, a holiday celebration of instrumental ensembles and carol sings, December 3rd, 5th, and 6th. Ticket information at gordongala.com.
Welcome back to BPR. I'm Jim Browdy. She's Margaret Egan. We're streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. Back at the library tomorrow. Everything is working fine. Mayor Wu joins us for an hour at the library on November 18th from noon to 1. The next day, Yo-Yo Ma joins us at the library on the 19th. He'll be playing and talking and all those kinds of things. Now, if you're a regular listener, you know that Margie and I tend to dwell a lot on what's wrong in our school systems. Well, our next guests, thankfully, have here to shed a spotlight on what's going right. This morning at Fenway Park, the education-centered nonprofit EdVesters awarded East Boston's Bradley Elementary School their $100,000 prize. No strings attached, School on the Move, it's called. It's their 20th year giving out the honor to celebrate schools that have shown, we got to quiet down over there.
Sorry,
you know what I mean?
I'm shuffling my papers.
Thank you very much. To celebrate schools that have shown dramatic improvements in outcomes for kids, we're joined by Marinell Rousmaniere, who's the CEO of EdVesters. Thanks so much for being here. It's great to have you. Also, Bradley Elementary's principal, Claire Carney. Hi, Claire. How are you?
Hi,
Or
thanks for
Principal
having
Carney,
us.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
And sixth grader who we got to meet a while ago, who is totally fabulous, Emmy Welch. Congratulations to you, too, Emmy. It's great to have you.
Thank you.
Okay, so before we talk to the grown-ups here, I just want to know what happened when you found out that you got this award. This is this morning, right?
Yeah.
Yeah? So what happened? They called your name, or how'd it go? How'd it go down?
So the announcer, she said the winners of the School on the Move Prize of 2025 is the Bradley Elementary School, and everybody started exploding in cheers, and it was really fun.
Yeah.
How
And
excited
what
were
did
you?
they
By the
say?
way, we screwed up. Your mic is backwards. It's my fault, not yours.
Here, I'll fix it.
We're fixing. There we go.
There we go. Okay.
What was
but
that
when
like?
They said, how about when they said your name?
They didn't say my name.
They didn't say your name.
Well, there are a lot of kids that go there, Marjorie. It's their school that's being honored.
But you were one of the primary. That's why you're here. You're one of the primary.
She goes to the
honorees,
school.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I went to.
How excited were you? That's the question.
I was really excited for the school.
Okay, so why'd you pick, before we find out about what EdVesters is, you'll tell us that in a minute, why'd you pick this elementary school?
Well, the Bradley has done an amazing job of moving the needle on their performance for students. EdVesters is the organization that gives the prize, but we actually have a panel of leaders across the city who actually choose the prize. So I don't choose it, our organization doesn't choose it, but we empower a group of experts. This year, actually, it was 4 principals that have won the prize in the past who are from 3 amazing finalist schools that we had and celebrated this morning.
And what are there strings? I said no strings.
Yeah.
What does that mean in real terms for the $100,000 that they get?
Yeah, so they get $80,000 in cash, and it is an award. They get to do whatever they think is right for their school to move forward the improvement. The other $20,000 we reserve to work with the school to do research on all the things that they've done that have gotten the improvement that they've seen and how others can learn from it.
Well, we want to know all the things you've done, Principal Claire Carney. How did you really not know till this morning? You're one of the
really
3
didn't
finalists.
know. We were totally in the dark.
So what'd that feel like?
It was incredible. I thought I was going to fall off the chair, to be completely honest with you, because your heart's racing and you're just so excited. We've been a finalist before in 2019, and we did not win. So I know what it's like to be on the other side. And today was just, for our kids back in East Boston who have thought very thoroughly about how to spend this $100,000, as well as our teachers who are there and our staff. We had 15 staff members there.
That's great.
Cheering. This award is for them.
So
how
what did you do?
Do you know how you are going to spend it? Do you know?
We don't,
You don't.
So one of our strategies when we think about strategies for improvement is really staff collaboration with families and students. And so we're going to put it to our school community. What do they want this money spent on, and take those ideas and do some collaborative decision making, just like we do with all of our decisions.
You mean you're actually going to talk to the parents?
We are. I'm actually a
wrong with
Bradley
you?
parent.
You are?
I sure am. I have 2 little boys at the Bradley.
So are they excited, or they don't know yet?
They have no idea what $100,000 means. They're just excited when they get like $10 to go to Target. So, but they are very excited.
Most importantly, tell us what you did that caused this award to be granted to you.
Yeah, it's a good question. So I've been at the Bradley for 10 years. We have an incredible staff, incredible families, incredible kids. And what it comes down to is thinking about how do we leverage all of those voices in our community. And so working together, high quality instructional materials for kids. So we got to make sure that what we're putting in front of kids is interesting, relevant. They want to learn it, right? We have to make sure that our teachers are talking to one another, talking to families, talking to students, and that they're collaborating to make those decisions. And the other thing, when you walk into our school, you just feel joy, right? So we start every day with a morning assembly out back with our families.
Who comes to the assembly?
Parents, students, teachers, everybody's there every single day. And students lead the assembly. And we talk about courage and confidence and how are we going to engage with our learning throughout the day.
I want to get back to tell us concretely. I understand with the vehicle; those are the vehicles to get.
Right.
Where did you go from and to in terms of performance?
Yeah. So when I first started there, back in about 10 years ago, we were in the 33rd percentile for state accountability, and Bradley had a great reputation because there were a lot of kids doing well. We had an advanced work strand, a lot of kids going to Latin school, right? And what we found was that only certain kids were doing well. And so now we're actually, as of 2025, in the 84th percentile in the state. So 33rd to 84th percentile. And the population of kids we're serving actually looks quite different, right? So we're serving more students with disabilities, English learners, and a fully inclusive setting.
We're talking to Marinell Rousmaniere, the CEO of EdVesters. which awarded this $100,000 School on the Move prize. The elementary school's principal, Bradley Elementary, Claire Carney, and a wonderful sixth grader, Emmy Welch.
You know, that's one of the things you hear all the time about Massachusetts schools. Yeah. The rich towns, everybody's doing great. And in the struggling towns, kids are not doing so great. You mentioned the population has changed. So how do you deal with that? That's a lot of people that don't speak English as well, or are just learning English. As you say, some kids are disabled. How do you... That's a lot to coordinate in one classroom.
Yeah, so I think it's the beauty of that diversity, right? The language that students speak, the strengths, the individual strengths that they bring to the community. We try to leverage those strengths. And we work as a team of educators, instructional aides, family liaisons, school psychologists, social worker, right? To think about where are our kids right now? Where do they need to go? And every single day recommit ourselves to making sure we can get them there.
And get back to the assembly for 1 second. I've heard a lot this before. I mostly heard this in private schools. With an assembly, it lasts for like 15 minutes, half an hour?
Yeah, 10, 15 minutes.
Yeah, and what do you think of those assemblies? Do they kind of get you off on the right foot, Emmy?
Yeah, I think they do because it tells us what our goals are. Be courageous, be confident, be a Bradley citizen.
Yeah,
and it makes everyone happy and it makes them feel like they're all included.
Okay, one more thing I want to ask too about. I asked you this when you first came in. Before you wearing a uniform, Jim and I have thought about this for years.
We still are.
Because I kind of think
today.
it avoids a lot of problems, like what to wear today. Try to make yourself look really good when you're in 7th grade and you're thinking about boys and boys are thinking about girls. You eliminate that with why do you have a uniform?
Yeah, it's a good question. And so we want to make sure that we eliminate those things you're talking about. But I will say that we could actually have a fashion show of kids in uniform and their takes on the uniform. It does not mean conformity. It really has individual flair. We have students who have blue sparkles like Taylor Swift when they walk into the building because that fits the uniform, right? We have people wearing representing their sports teams, or Boston Scores, our Bradley soccer team, right? And all of that is included in the uniform, but it really does cut down on the competition, I think. And as a parent, it makes getting ready in the morning significantly easier. No fights over what to wear.
Hey, Marinell, other than giving out this annual School on the Move prize, the $100,000, what else does EdVesters do? Why are you there?
Yeah, thanks for asking, Jim. EdVesters is almost 25-year-old school improvement nonprofit, and we are there because making the kind of improvement for our students and for our schools takes all of us. And so we're sort of the glue that brings folks together. We bring philanthropy, we bring nonprofits, we bring schools to move the needle on key issue areas. So we work around arts education, math education, career pathways, and racial equity to really close opportunity and achievement gaps for students.
Claire Carney, my attitude about awards for things like this is the only places that should ever get awards is if the good things they do are replicable elsewhere. And that's not to belittle what the entity is doing or what Bradley Elementary is doing, but its greatest significance is if people can take what has caused you to succeed and your students to succeed and put it elsewhere. So tell us why, because you're nodding in agreement, why this is all replicable.
Yeah, I want to give a shout out to the Allegheny, which is also a school in East Boston, Up Academy Dorchester, which were the two other finalist schools, because when we all talked about why we think we've had success, there were so many commonalities among us. And one of the big ones was around how we leverage teaching staff at the school. And I don't just mean the teachers in the building. I mean all of the staff who work with kids to think differently about how we educate kids and the varying needs that we need to address, right? And so we have pipelines for our paraprofessionals, or instructional aides, we call them, to become teachers within the Boston Public Schools. We have a learning specialist model where you are a teacher who works with a grade level, but you're servicing students with disabilities and multilingual learners, and really thinking about getting to know the value of every child who you serve and leveraging their individual strengths to support the collective learning of everybody in the classroom, that every child brings something to the conversation with others and is a gift to that classroom community.
So, based on the assumption everybody wants to succeed, and we understand some places have problems that are more intense and harder to surmount than others, why doesn't everybody do these kinds of things?
I think that it's a process. So I've been at the school for 10 years. I think a lot of it comes to do with who our own leaders are within the district. We have a fantastic superintendent, Mary Skipper. Tommy Welch is my regional superintendent. These are people who empower us to take risks, who say, I'm behind you. I understand why you're doing this. The data supports that you're doing this. The parents are engaged in the conversation, and I trust you. And I think that having leaders who trust school leaders and trust teachers and trust the people who work with children on the ground are what's going to really move the needle for kids.
One of the things I wondered about, Marinell, was how schools all around the country, including Massachusetts here, were teaching reading the wrong way for so many years. How did that happen? And why did it take so long? I know some places are still opposed to changing it, but reading scores have gone way down.
Well, we were just talking about this on the way over here, Marjorie.
Yeah.
So, and I know this is something that you care a lot about, and Claire can add to this. I think that there are so many spaces between where people make decisions at the top and what happens in a classroom.
Yeah.
And that really is the key. This is what we see at the Bradley and in the other schools who we work with and who have run this award, is that implementation. So who has the information, who sets the policy? They can be as elegant and beautiful as you want, but unless you have leaders like Claire, you have leaders like the superintendent who are from each layer of the organization saying, this is how we need to do it. And so we had an idea that, I won't get into all the history of why that idea existed, but it took a long time to trickle down, and now we need to get much faster at what we know about how students read and get that implementation focus to our schools.
So I think what you're saying, that this came from somebody that's way up here. Teachers on the ground may have realized it wasn't working, but they don't have the power to say it's not working.
They didn't have the access to the information that it wasn't working anymore. Somebody told them, here's the training, here's the school that does it. We're going to bring this training to you, and they did it. And then that shift in information happened, and it didn't get to them fast enough.
You were celebrating the fact that from above they're finally mandating this difference. I mean,
well, they are kind of mandating this difference. Yeah, I mean, the legislature's even involved.
It's only going to matter if that implementation happens at every level.
Yeah.
The policy can be beautiful as it's written on Beacon Hill, but unless we're focused on the and the support of teachers and not pendulum swinging, so we say, oh, now kids don't read real books, which we've read about, right? Which is a danger if we go too far without making sure that, Emmy was talking about her favorite books in the green room.
Oh, yeah, what are your favorite books?
What are they?
I like all the Percy Jackson books.
Oh, yeah.
And there's a newer series that I found out about, and it's called Keepers of the Lost Cities, and my dad got it for me. And I'm on book 4, and I really like it.
What does it mean to be a good Bradley citizen? You mentioned that a minute ago from the assembly. What does that mean?
It's like picking up your friends when they're down, helping other students and other peers succeed, and also being yourself.
Oh, my God.
I like that.
What a kid.
Can you write that down, please?
I think
Jim and I.
Oh, my God.
I think that's advice for everyone, right? We all need to be having
But you know what I
I
also hear, and I know nothing about education except what I read or my own kids' education, was that the big thing in schools, especially elementary schools, is the principal.
Well, it is. We actually find it at EdVesters, and this is not just our research, but as we've looked back on 20 years of School on the Move, there are actually 5 things. It is the kind of facilitative leader that Claire is. It's collaborative teachers in the way she just described. It's academic rigor and student support. So it's holding kids to high standards, giving them the content they need, and supporting them with that. Mm-hmm. It's use of data, and Claire will talk about data all day long. And it's the kind of family and community partnerships. It's those 5 things. Research from Chicago says that if you have even 2 of those 5 things, you have an 8 to 10 times greater likelihood of being an improving school. To your
Emmy,
point.
what do you want to be when you
I
grow
want to
up?
be an astronaut.
Why is that?
Wow.
We had an astronaut on our show.
We did.
And you want to know something? You know where she called in from?
Where?
Outer space.
Yeah. And her hair was all
Sonny
sticking
Williams,
straight up
she
out of her
called
head.
in
It was
from,
great.
It was really, why do you want to be an astronaut?
I really love space, and I think I could do good up there. And I want to float. And I want to go on Mars and the moon and orbit the Earth.
Those are all excellent reasons. You were fabulous, but we are really glad to meet you. And congratulations to you, your fellow students, your principal, the teachers, all the other staff. and EdVesters representative here, Marinell. It's really great to have you. Let's stay in touch.
Yeah.
It's a great day for everybody.
Yeah, thank you
Thanks.
very much for coming in. Congratulations to everybody for your great work. We've been speaking with EdVesters CEO Marinell Rousmaniere, Claire Carney, and Emmy Welch from the School on the Move prize winner, $100,000 prize winner. That, of course, is Bradley Elementary School in East Boston. Coming up after this quick break, GBH's Edgar Herwick III joins us with a dispatch from the Curiosity Desk. He thinks he'll be able to stump us with the difference between a speed bump and a speed hump. I think he will be able to stump us. But anyway, he's next. I'm Marjorie Egan. He's Jim Browder. You're listening to BPR 89.7 GBH, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News.
Clothing prices are ticking up thanks to inflation and tariffs, and more people are saying they don't have to buy new stuff, they'll rent it instead.
I don't really want to hang on to pieces forever, so the trends will have changed, my taste might have changed.
I'm Elsa Chang. The rising popularity of clothing rentals on All Things Considered from NPR News.
Today at 4, here on GBH News 89.7.
Support for our programs comes from you.
And Mass General Brigham Health Plan, providing coverage plans for individuals, families, employers, and retirees with benefits that help you live in your moment. More at massgeneralbrighamhealthplan.org. And Massachusetts Maritime Academy, where education meets transformation. Their Learn, Do, Lead philosophy is designed to deliver students prepared for global leadership in careers on land or at sea. Maritime.edu.
Welcome back to BPR. Marjorie Egan and Jim Browder, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. Here are the Requiem for the Penny. I think they stopped producing it yesterday, today, whatever it is. And to help us understand the difference between a speed bump, a speed hump, and a speed table, which I've never heard of. Joined now in Studio 3 by GBH's Edgar B. Herwick III. You know him as the host of GBH's Curiosity Desk YouTube series and a co-host of Fridays on the Culture Show. Hey, Edgar, how are you?
Hey, I was excited to be on here today.
Why?
Right up until I realized I had to follow Emmy from Bradley Elementary.
She
was so good. I was like, geez, how do you follow that?
I know, and she had all these bracelets that made by her different coaches and different teams and different. She's a very impressive young kid. I bet she will be an astronaut.
I think she will.
Yeah. Okay. So tell us about the penny.
So are you sad about it? Honestly, are you sad that the penny is going away?
I have been an advocate for getting rid of it for almost centuries.
Really?
Yeah. Centuries.
For as long as there's been a penny.
Yeah, well, we watched your thing. Some people are ready to get rid of the nickels and dimes.
We did a recent Curiosity Desk episode where, we knew this date was coming. Nobody knew exactly when, but, President Trump had said, we're going to stop making the penny. And so we knew it was going to be sometime soon. So we went out and we talked to people. We spent a couple days in Central Square and just kind of caught passersby and said, hey, what do you think about the penny going away? And honestly, I got to say, I was really surprised with the diversity of opinion and how emotional some people actually get about it. They feel really attached to the penny.
Can we play a little sound? Here's part of your personal on the street thing, interviewing people. I didn't know it was in Central Square. Yeah. This is from September. Here are people. You'll hear Edgar in there, too. Here they are.
I don't know. I think it might be time to get rid of the penny. Let's see.
If it costs 4 cents to make all of those and they're only worth 1 cent, we're lost. We're kind of lost. I'm sorry to say. There's no other option.
There's no way out of here.
No, we're stuck.
You have pennies? What do you do with your pennies?
I have like a jar.
Candle jar.
Pickle jar.
Big Poland Spring jar.
The pennies just go into a bag.
And what do you do with them? What do you do with this bag of pennies?
Well, now I just have pennies.
Didn't one person say they threw them away?
They throw them away.
What is
Another
that
person
about?
was like, I throw them at cars. When somebody goes speeding by me, I toss them at cars. I was like, are you crazy? That's unbelievable. One thing I learned in doing this, though, and this is not the first time we are getting rid of a coin. We once had a halfpenny, the hay penny, here in the United States from 1793 till 1857, and then they got rid of the hay penny. So there is precedent.
That's fascinating. Fabulous. So is the nickel coming next, or is that not happening?
It doesn't seem like it. One thing I will say is it's interesting because, there have been efforts to eliminate the penny for years and years, and this is happening via presidential action. But there's also a bill in Congress right now. There's a few of them that would kind of not just eliminate the penny, but also right now, the only thing that's changing is that the penny's not being produced anymore. Like just the ones that are out there are still out there. But if Congress takes action, some other things will happen up to and including pennies will not be allowed to be used, or cash transactions will have to be rounded to the 5 cent. Electronic stuff, you could still use the penny. But
why not just paper? Why can't we just have paper money instead of the thing I hate most about change is it's heavy.
People like quarters.
I don't care what they like.
Well, they like quarters, but then, so here's the thing. So it costs more than a penny to make a penny. It also costs more than a nickel to make a nickel. And so a lot of people say, well, get rid of the nickel. But then people like the quarter, and they say if you get rid of the nickel, then the quarter's the only one at the 5 cent sort of denomination.
There's a dime in there, too. You forget about the dime?
I know there's a dime in there, but the dime is 10 based. The quarter is 5. It goes 25, 50, 75.
Oh, I heard that,
so then you sort of need the nickel for the 5 cent thing.
Okay, fine.
It's a rabbit hole, I promise
What's
you.
the Trump coin going to be? Is that going to be $1?
I don't know.
I'm sure it's going to be
gold.
gold.
$1 million is what
I'm sure it will be. I'm sure it will be gold.
Okay, Marjorie does not know the difference between a speed bump and a speed hump. You'll tell her.
Okay.
And I never heard of a speed table.
Yeah,
so can you tell us? Oh, you're going to give us a quiz?
We're going to do this as a quiz, and then if you have remaining questions, we'll
Marjorie
get into it.
hates quizzes.
So because so here's the thing: we've done a recent episode also about speed humps, and we thought we'd have some fun with a quiz here. So we're going to make it interesting. There's money on the line for this.
There is?
$10,000, which is how many pennies? No, don't worry about it. So now, unfortunately, GBH has a little bit. We can't really do financial prize, so we're going to have to donate the money to charity. Jim, if you win, the proceeds are going to go to the UN-led Grudge Foundation.
Oh, very good.
Marjorie, if you win, proceeds are going to go to a charity based out of Slovenia that connects children in need with your misplaced scripts, your New York Times printouts, all of that.
Thank you.
Now, if it's a tie, and this
you know
is huge.
Me well, Edgar.
If it's a tie, Jamie is going to clean Studio 3 free of charge and with a smile on
That'll
his
be
face.
a first for anybody. Okay, let's go.
So here we go. Question 1. What is this one's for you, Jim? What is the difference between a speed bump and a speed hump? Now, I'm going to give you a little A. Speed bumps are more pronounced, intended for places like parking lots and school zones. B. It's regional. There's no difference on the West Coast. In places like California, they tend to call them bumps. Here we have them. We call them humps. C. Dinner and a movie.
That's really inappropriate, by the way. He said that, not me. It's A. Obviously, it's A. We know that. Thank you.
There it is. It is A, yeah.
She would not have gotten that because she doesn't know the difference.
I wouldn't have gotten. I thought bumps were smaller.
One slows you down more.
Bumps are smaller and a little bit higher. They're designed to be taken at about 5 miles an hour.
Yeah, you got to really watch out for those.
Humps are mostly in residential areas like smaller streets, right? They're designed to be taken somewhere between 10 and 20.
Okay.
Tables. This is the one you were asking about. So tables, think about they're wider. They're more like a plateau, and you can take them a little bit faster. So if you're on a larger street where the speed limit's a little higher, you'd put a speed table. So there's a couple of places, I think in Somerville, Medford has some speed tables for sure that I know about. There's also something called a speed cushion, which I had never heard of either. And this is one where there's a little gap in it, so an emergency vehicle or something wouldn't have to take the hump. So they could line their tires up. And
so before you ask Margie her question, I have one for you.
Yes, go on.
Since you're allegedly the expert. There is only one city councilor in the history of Cambridge who requested a speed bump on his own street and had it denied while he was in office.
Interesting.
Who was that?
Could that be? And I think he is. He's sometimes remembered. Is it Jim Browning?
That is it. That is correct. The only city councilor who has ever asked for a speed bump and had it denied was me.
That says something, I guess, right
Okay,
there.
ask her a question.
All right, Marjorie.
Yes.
This one's for you. Different places have different names for speed bumps, okay? So which of the following is not a real term for what we in New England would call a speed bump? Okay. A. In the UK, they're called a sleeping police officer. B. In Puerto Rico, they're called muerto, which is translated in English as dead bodies. C. In Argentina, they call them lomos de burro, or donkey's backs. Or D. All of the above, which is not a real term.
She's not getting that. She's nervous.
I'm going to say B. Oh,
This is
no.
D.
Pathetic.
They are all not. None of them are
not
real
real
terms.
names.
They are
Okay.
all not
How do you
real
feel
terms.
about that?
I feel chagrined. I feel ridiculous. I feel bad about my lack of bump hump knowledge.
Bump hump. Thank you.
That's
Bump,
right.
pump. All right, Jim's up 1-0 right
We
now.
only have 30 seconds. Let's go quickly.
Real quick to you, Jim.
Yeah.
The inventor of the modern version of the speed bump, Arthur Compton, also contributed to what notable 20th century invention? The Q-tip, the internet, the atomic bomb, or the flexible catheter?
Well, the most important thing in my life is a Q-tip, so it must be Q-tip.
No, it's actually the atomic bomb.
Oh.
Final question for you, Marjorie.
No,
True or false?
10 seconds.
Is it illegal to drive your car in a bus lane? Okay, I'm out of here.
Edgar B. Herwick III.
Thank you very much.
Thank
that
you.
was very good.
Curiosity desk, by the way, we do.
Yeah, and I love your curiosity desk stuff is great. We've been speaking with Edgar B. Herwick III, co-host of the Culture Show's Week in Review and host of the Curiosity Desk YouTube series. Check out his dispatches, youtube.com/GBH News. That's youtube.com/GBH News. Coming up after 1 o'clock news, MIT economist John Gruber on what universal childcare could do for the economy. He's Jim Browdy. I'm Marjorie Egan. You're listening to BPR and 89.7 GBH, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News.
Support GBH and unlock the best of NPR and PBS, all bundled in one. With the GBH Super Bundle, you'll get NPR Plus and GBH Passport. So give a little, get a lot in return. Learn more at gbh.org/superbundle.
Support for GBH comes from you.
And Revolutionary Valley. On April 19th, 1775 in Lexington and Concord, the first shots of the Revolution rang out. This is the heart of Revolutionary Valley. revolutionaryvalley.org, funded in part by the Massachusetts Office of Travel and Tourism. And MIT Federal Credit Union, providing personal loan options to help consolidate debt, fund home improvements, and more. Applications at mitfcu.org, federally insured by NCUA.
You're listening to 89.7 WGBH HD1 Boston. Online at gbhnews.org. GBH News, what matters to you?
I'm Jim Browdy, head on Hour 3 of BPR. Here in Boston and certainly New York City, the high cost of living means both parents need to work just to make ends meet, assuming there are two parents. Add $20,000 a year per kid in childcare costs, and the math just doesn't add up. MIT economist John Gruber takes a look at one of Zohran Mamdani's most popular policy proposals, universal childcare.
I'm Marjorie Egan. Then it's Am I the A-Hole Day? Tech Supports for Boomers Edition. An ungrateful millennial worker who's fed up with the expectation from boomer colleagues that they will always help with technical issues. Who's the bigger a-hole? The impatient office whippersnappers who never teach anybody how to operate the tech, or the troglodytes who never seem to learn how to reload the BPR tech screen every single solitary day of the damn year? This one feels a little personal, Jim. Weigh in or text next. Hour number 3, BPR 89.7 GBH.
Live from NPR News, I'm Lakshmi Singh. House Speaker Mike Johnson says he plans to hold a vote next week on a measure requiring the Justice Department to release all files related to the late convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. The House Oversight Committee has already released tens of thousands of Epstein documents. They've propelled Democratic allegations that President Trump knew more about Epstein's sex crimes than he's let on, a claim that President Trump has strongly denied. NPR spoke with Democratic California Congressman Ro Khanna about the upcoming vote.
First of all, we may get a veto-proof vote in the House. You could get that in the Senate, and it will put such incredible pressure for the MAGA base to be voting against the president. That has never happened in his first term or second term.
Epstein died in jail in 2019, authorities say by suicide, after the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Southern District of New York charged him with sex trafficking minors. He was accused of crimes in New York and Florida involving dozens of victims. His accomplice and former girlfriend, Ghislaine Maxwell, is in prison for sex trafficking. Federal aviation officials say temporary flight reductions will remain at 6% because more air traffic controllers are coming to work. NPR's Joel Rose reports it may take several days before commercial aviation returns to normal, following the government shutdown.
The reductions in air traffic at dozens of major airports had been slated to rise to 10% by Friday. Instead, the Department of Transportation says they will stay at 6% because more air traffic controllers are showing up for work. The Federal Aviation Administration has said the cuts were necessary to keep the airspace safe as the agency grappled with a staffing shortage of air traffic controllers during the federal government shutdown. Some air traffic controllers took on second jobs and many called in sick. With the shutdown now over, airlines are preparing to ramp back up to full schedules. Aviation regulators say that will happen when safety data improves, but they have not given any timetable. Joel Rose, NPR News, Washington.
Google says it's suing an organization that it claims enables phishing and tech scammers. More from NPR's John Ruwitch.
Google is targeting an enterprise it calls Lighthouse. In a court filing, it describes it as a well-organized criminal group that creates and distributes software and support for would-be cyber criminals. Basically, it helps them make phony phishing websites and hook victims with texts. Lighthouse is based in China, and Google says it does not actually know the names of the people involved. Instead, the company is seeking a court injunction to help it dismantle the Lighthouse enterprise from the outside in, targeting other companies or entities that might be facilitating Lighthouse. Google says its logo is on many websites and website templates created by Lighthouse, and that undermines user trust in Google. Google is among NPR's financial supporters. John Ruwitch, NPR News.
Major market indices are down 1% to more than 2%, the Dow falling nearly 500 points. From Washington, it's NPR News.
Good afternoon. With the latest from the GBH Newsroom, I'm Henry Santoro. Schools in Worcester have seen a sharp increase in student offenses, including fighting, bullying, and assaults on staff, as committee members call for more information. Reports that the offenses are highlighted in a disciplinary report received by the Worcester School Committee's Finance, Operations, and Governments Subcommittee on Monday. In only the second year of collecting this kind of data, the district reported suspendable offenses increased from 1,800 to 2,200, while non-suspendable incidents increased from over 10,000 to over 14,000. And researchers at Harvard and Brown universities have found that a rising number of Americans are dying before they can benefit from Medicare. Crimson reports between 2012 and 2022, there was a 27.2% increase in the rate of deaths among individuals aged 18 to 64, including 27.7% rise in early deaths among white Americans and 38% in black Americans. Researchers say the rise in premature mortality means that many Americans are unable to access Medicare, designed as a universal health program for adults over 65, even as they contribute to it through payroll taxes throughout their time in the workforce. In sports, the Bruins are in Ottawa tonight. Patriots are Thursday Night Football. They host the Jets at Gillette. We're at 46 degrees in Boston right now. This is GBH News.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include the estate of Joan B. Kroc, whose bequest serves as an enduring investment in the future of public radio and seeks to help NPR produce programming that meets the highest standards of public service in journalism and cultural expression.
Welcome to hour number 3 of Boston Public Radio. Jim Brady and Marjorie Egan. We are streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. Tomorrow we will be back at the Boston Public Library. The mayor of Boston will join us at the library November 18th from noon to 1. And Yo-Yo Ma, the great cellist, will perform at the Boston Public Library for free November 19th. Hello again, Jim.
Hey there, Marjorie. How are you?
Good.
We're joined now on Zoom by Jonathan Gruber. John's the chair of MIT's Department of Economics. He's also the Ford Professor of Economics, who was instrumental in creating both the Massachusetts healthcare reform and the Affordable Care Act. His latest book is Jumpstarting America, How Breakthrough Science Can Revive Economic Growth and the American Dream. Hello there, John.
Hey, guys.
Hey.
Hey, a great topic today. You know, the New York mayor's race was a lot about having universal child care in New York City. Anybody you know that's got kids is obsessed with the cost of universal child care. So tell us what you said about affordability and universal child care.
Yeah, I mean, this really topic, it's been around a while, but it really was brought to the fore by the Mamdani campaign, where he got a lot of traction out of addressing what is becoming sort of the unaffordable cost of child care. So if you look it up, the typical estimates of a cost of childcare is about $2,000 per kid per month in Boston. Think about that. If you have 2 kids in childcare full time, that's $25 an hour.
Yeah.
That's almost twice the minimum wage before you're breaking even. So there's a big appetite for making childcare more affordable, and this is a very attractive issue and something I think Mamdani got a lot of traction on.
Can we
This
stay
has
for
actually
one
been a
second?
focus-
Can we stay
Yeah.
for 1 second on the cost? The $25 an hour thing is powerful, but the number to me, which is just another way to look at it, is if it's $2,000 a month per kid, that's $24,000 a kid. You have 2 kids, that's $48,000. You have to make what, $78,000 before taxes. I mean, it's
And you need a partner.
It's staggering. It's not high. It's ridiculous.
It is absolutely staggering. Your numbers are a bit off, Jim, because you get a tax break to offset the childcare.
Oh, how much you get off?
You quite make that much.
How much?
But the bottom line is it's staggering. I mean, it's really, if you talk to people about, really middle class to upper middle class people about what's in their minds about affordability, what do they mention? Childcare, college, housing,
right,
old folks retirement,
right.
That's sort of that's and now healthcare.
Okay, I got over my outburst. Go ahead.
No, that's fine. So basically, but your outburst is why it's become a hot issue, and there's actually been a focus of the Healey administration as well, where she's focusing on expanding affordable, high-quality pre-K across Massachusetts. Now, to be clear, what Healey's proposing is pretty modest. She's not paying for high-quality pre-K. She's promoting grants to towns to work with them to expand it. This has benefited about 3,000 kids so far, which is great, but that's about 2 to 4% of all the relevant kids who could benefit from preschool in Massachusetts. The state also has targeted subsidies for childcare for low-income families. So if your income is below $134,000 a year for a family of 4, the state will cap the cost of your childcare at about 7% of income. That's great, but it's not guaranteed. There's a waiting list. It's not an entitlement, as we say in economics. It's an option. So the state does have programs to help low-income people afford childcare, and there's a growing interest in providing universal preschool.
Let me ask you one more question. One other thing that she did that she, being Healey sponsored and the legislature went along with, I think in her last budget, was the expansion of the child tax credit. Now, obviously, it's not directed purely to child care, but I assume and they took the cap off of the number of kids who you'd be eligible to get a benefit for. They raised the amount. It's not huge, but it's a fairly dramatic increase. That's helpful too, even though it doesn't fill the whole hole, correct?
Yeah, I mean, Jim, you actually are raising a fascinating separate point, which is, should we even be worried about childcare, or should we be giving money to people with kids? The conservative position on this, you're famously conservative, Jim, the conservative position on this is, look, if you give money for childcare, all we'll do is just make childcare prices go up, and you want to actually help that many people. Let's just give them cash. And that is an alternative position. We can come back to that.
Well, just one last thing. But
evidence is it's not as effective.
I thought the conservative position is if you just give money directly to low and moderate income people, they spend all of it on drugs and gambling. Isn't that where they go, or no?
I'm not saying their positions are consistent, Jim.
Okay.
I'm just saying that if you look at people in the conservative camp who are focused on this issue, they say it's the wrong thing to focus on subsidizing childcare. The right thing is to focus on getting money to families with kids.
Okay, go ahead.
So that's an interesting debate we can come back to. But let's focus on childcare for a second. And let's look at the evidence. Economists have studied this in many contexts, in many countries, in many cities. And I think we've actually learned a lot. There's a lot of stuff you guys ask about where I'm like, I don't know, the evidence is unclear. Actually, the evidence is pretty clear on this. We've learned a lot. Let's separate preschool, so I'm talking sort of 3 to 4 year olds, from childcare, or talk 0 to 2 year olds. I think that basically, and let's think both about, there's 2 aspects to care about. There's the effect on the kids. Is it good for the kids? And the effect on the parents, typically the moms. Does it get them to work and earn more money? The evidence for preschool is positive on both counts. There's evidence that universally available preschool that's high quality, delivers good long-run outcomes for kids. So there's a great study by my colleagues Josh Angers and Parag Patak, where they look at the introduction of universal pre-K in Boston. It was a program where there was a lottery to qualify for pre-K in the late 1990s. And that lottery is exactly what economists like, because then we can study the winners and the losers. It's as good as running an experiment. We can study the people who got in versus not got in, and they can then follow them. And what they find is the kids who won the lottery, who qualified for free, high-quality pre-K, were 18% more likely to go to college.
Wow.
Think about that for a second. That is huge. That is a huge effect. And there's other studies of universal pre-K in states, like Oklahoma was one of the first states to do it. It's, by the way, not necessarily a purely partisan issue. I mean, Oklahoma is not a pure, famously liberal state, but they're one of the first states to expand universal pre-K. The evidence is once again clear that it improves outcomes for kids. Moreover, the evidence is clear that it has a huge effect in allowing mothers, particularly once they're parents, but typically it's mothers, to enter the labor force. Here is a fascinating study that was done in New Haven. I love this study. It's almost unbelievable, but it's very well done, so it's the truth. They looked at what happened when they went from half-day to full-day pre-K in New Haven. And what they found was just doing that allowed mothers to increase their earnings by 21%.
Wow.
So I think there's a pretty strong argument we should be doing a lot more on universal pre-K. And that, I think, is pretty clear from the evidence. Now, what about childcare for younger children?
Before you leave that, can I go back to New Haven for a second?
Yeah.
Do you know the differential between the extra, that 21% extra income for the parent as compared to the cost of the program?
Jim, I love how you're thinking, man. This is great.
This is unbelievable,
I have
actually.
the answer to that question, and you remind me, I skipped that in my notes. If you look at the extra tax revenues, just the extra tax revenues, forgetting the fact that people are making more money, just the extra tax revenues collected from that higher earnings, it paid for 90% of the cost of the program.
That is incredible.
He did put it in his notes.
So it almost pays for itself for the public sector.
You did put it in your notes. I just want you to know.
I just forgot to. I forgot to read it.
It's there.
So basically,
that is real. That is huge, by the way.
Yeah, no, it is absolutely huge, and basically says that this is really close to a free lunch, is what that suggests. Now, that's one program in New Haven. The fact that universal pre-K is good for kids, we've seen that in study after study. This effect is pretty new. This result is pretty novel, so I'd like to see more. But the point is that even if it offsets half, that's still enormous because they're not counting the benefits of parents from having higher incomes, and it's good for the kids. So I think that's pretty clear. We should be investing more in that. Childcare is a little less clear. So for the younger kids, there are excellent studies by the Nobel Prize-winning economist James Heckman, who looked at very high quality in programs for childcare for low-income families. And he found, once again, did great studies where he followed those kids later in life. And he found that it paid off. Later in life, these kids had higher income. They were even less likely to commit crimes.
Wow.
So really fascinating data.
But don't leave that yet. Why?
Because basically this high quality care was essentially investing in what we call their human capital. Once again, remember my key rule. Economists get paid a lot of money to make up fancy words for easy concepts. Okay. Human capital basically means skills. That basically kids are in childcare. They're learning to speak quicker. They're learning to socialize quicker. And these things seem to pay off. Now, but this is the key thing about it being low income, which is there's a fairly well-known study that I did with two Canadian economists, Michael Baker and Kevin Milligan, where we looked at an example of expanding to universal childcare in Quebec. Quebec in 1997 said we're going to choose universal childcare in our province. We looked at what effect that had on the kids in Quebec relative to kids in other provinces that didn't get it. And we found it was bad for the kids. Okay, we found that when the kids were little, when you do like assess tests on kids by teachers and parents, they were more anxious, more aggressive, and their motor skills were worse. And we then followed them up as they were teenagers and found they had worse health, lower life satisfaction, or more likely to engage in crime. So what's going on here? Well, there's basically two possibilities. One is that essentially for the low-income families that were targeted by this first program, those are more difficult life circumstances. And so being in childcare was a better outcome for them. The Quebec program, they already had a low-income program, so the Quebec program is really for the middle class and up. In those cases, it may not be as clear that the childcare environment is better from the home environment. You level on top of that a critical point. What happens when you massively expand childcare out of the blue? You don't get the most qualified workers.
Yeah.
Quebec suddenly massively added hundreds of thousands of people to their childcare roles, and the quality was not high. So it may be that what happened was that it may just be that you don't want to have, that you need to have high quality childcare is great, and those low income experiments did provide high quality childcare.
Well,
but it's not clear.
You know what I wanted to, because I had my kids in daycare and I worked in a daycare for a while. I mean, you have to have in the infant room, the 0 to, or not 0, but 6 weeks, 8 weeks to like a year and a half. The ratio was 2 to 1, 2 kids for every teacher, so that you spent most of your time carrying babies around all day long. They needed that intense, and then the ratio as the kids get older, that seems to be, and that's obviously the most expensive. It's much more expensive for infant childcare than for preschool as a parent because the ratio is different. So was there anything looking at that, the ratio for the infant?
It's a great question. There is a lot of evidence that higher quality childcare, as measured things by ratios, delivers better outcomes for kids.
Yeah.
But you're making, once again, an excellent different point, Marjorie, which is another reason why, in some sense, you might want to focus on preschool first, is that's cheaper.
Much cheaper.
In some sense, it's a cheaper thing to do.
Yep.
The evidence is clear. But let me finish on the childcare.
Sure.
Because there is a positive coda, which is a study we're just finishing now, myself and these same co-authors, which is we're actually now looking at the moms who benefit from the childcare. Because remember I said there's effect on kids, effect on moms. And we're doing in our studies never been done before, which is we can not only show the moms went to work more, we can follow the moms 25 years later and see how it affected their careers.
Yeah.
This is now an old enough program. And we have a fascinating result, which is the mothers who benefit from this program have much steeper rises in their wages with age. And by 50 are earning a lot more than they would have if they hadn't benefited from this program. And if you add up the lifetime tax revenues, it offsets a lot of the cost of the program. So it looks like whether it's childcare or preschool, what's our bottom line? I thrown a lot of stuff at you. What's our bottom line? It looks like whether it's childcare or preschool, the benefit of getting moms to work is enormous and offsets much of the cost of the program. But in terms of the kids, it looks like it matters the quality and who's affected by it. So where does this leave? If I'm advising Governor Healy, I'm sure she's listening. If I'm advising Governor Healy, what I say is, look, go all in on preschool to start. That seems to be the no-brainer place. Childcare, I think, once again, if you have enough money, go for it. But I think the risk I worry about is the Quebec risk, which is an effort to make it universal. Given a limited budget, you don't make it high quality enough. I think the evidence is clear. It's better to have high quality childcare for a smaller set of the population than low quality childcare for all the population.
And so if these studies demonstrate that in certain settings, depending on the population, as you described a minute ago, and the quality of the teacher, et cetera, the government recoups a significant percentage. In the case of New Haven, whatever it was, 90% of the cost there through the tax revenue. The reason why conservatives wouldn't embrace this is either because, it's a question, they either don't believe the data, or they don't believe government should be involved in any fashion, even if it's a good deal for that government. Why
or
would
we're
this
just anti-States
probably a better
of America.
I mean, no, okay. So let me explain the conservative counterargument, which these studies don't speak to, which is that if you subsidize childcare enough over time, they'll just start raising the prices they charge for childcare. This is what's called in education the Bennett hypothesis.
That's like the loan forgiveness argument, right? Isn't that the same deal?
It's a criticism of financial aid for colleges. All it does is raise college prices. Mm-hmm. There's a criticism that we don't really have great evidence on it. Now, that it's not a reason not to do it, but I think you'd have to ask, well, gee, compare this. And there's another conservative criticism, which Marjorie, you haven't commented on, which is this is anti-women who stay at home. Hmm. Because you are not doing anything for women who choose to stay at home. And is that unfair? There's a term we have in economics called horizontal equity. We think of equity as rich versus poor. Another way to think about equity is comparing people who start with similar situations and make different choices. And do you really want to treat them differently? Here we have two women starting in similar situations, one choosing to work, you're giving her a big subsidy. One choosing not to work, you're doing nothing for her. And that would be the conservative argument as well, that we're basically biasing against women who choose to stay at home.
Wow, how do you respond to that one?
I think that we can have our cake and eat it too.
How?
Which is, I think that we should have a tax system which favors families, which gives child tax credits, but that we cannot, if we make them big enough to offset the enormous cost of childcare, it's going to bankrupt our country. Basically, we should have a child credit that's sizable that rewards the cost of having kids. We should also subsidize preschool, especially, and childcare for low-income families.
You know, it's amazing how many people you hear say that are in their 20s and 30s that they're not having children because they can't afford the expense of it, and they've got a legitimate point.
That's now that's not affected. Now the conservative, that's a separate issue. The conservative thing was still give money to families. That does nothing for the equity. There's a separate horizontal equity issue, which is, do you want to, if you give money to people with kids, you're basically favoring people who have kids. And that raises a whole separate set of issues, which is fascinating, which is, do we want to encourage people having kids? And actually, the truth is, it doesn't really matter, because it turns out you can't drive people to have kids by giving them money. It turns out they've studied this over and over again. You can affect the timing of when people have kids. So you give people money that expires at the end of the year, they'll have their kids sooner, but you can't affect whether people have kids. This is a big issue because we're worried about slowing population growth worldwide. A number of countries are trying to give financial bonuses to get people to have more kids. The answer is, if you want to give more money to people with kids, do it because you're worried about the cost of raising kids. Don't do it because you think you'll encourage fertility. There's no evidence that happens.
So do you know enough about what Mom Donnie is proposing? My understanding about the numbers, I think I have these either right or very close to right, that his universal program would cost somewhere in the neighborhood of $7 billion, and the total budget of New York City, I was going to say is only $115 billion. That's a lot of money. I mean, it's a huge amount of money.
It's a huge amount of money, and what I don't know is what that buys you in terms of the quality of what he's buying. And once again, I would say, if I were advising him, I would say focus on the older kids who are less expensive to cover, and focus on providing quality care for the lowest income of the other kids. There's also, what Elizabeth Warren proposed, which is the Affordable Care Act applied to childcare, which is a sliding income scale, which is basically to say we're going to have universal care, but once you're in a certain level, you will, we're going to make you contribute more and more for it. I don't know what Mom Donnie's asking of the families to contribute. And this is, I thought, a very interesting proposal Warren had back during her campaign days.
What do you think of the proposal? It sounds pretty good to me.
Look, I'm an ACA fan, so I like it. I think it's a great idea. I think that the difference is that I would once again favor the older, once again, I worry about the Quebec experience, and I worry about pushing too many kids into low-quality childcare. So I don't want to do if we guarantee that childcare was good enough. But I absolutely think we're a nation where people should contribute based on their means. And I think that I like that proposal a lot. I don't know what Mom Donnie's doing in his proposal about that.
May I ask you an Obamacare question, since you are one of the architects of that whole thing? I should remember this, but I don't, and you probably would, that Obamacare could be cheaper if what? I mean, what is it? It didn't. There was some states that didn't want to cover expanded health care, even though the
expanded Medicaid.
Expanded Medicaid, because the federal government was they were offering it in some states for political reasons, wouldn't take it. And I think I recall that the more people that get into Obamacare, especially young people that get into Obamacare, the cheaper it would be. I mean, we're all talking about these subsidies going through the roof, and we put those in place during COVID. So what is the argument for, people's premiums are going to double. $3,000 seems a lot a month, a month for Obamacare. So explain the cost of it.
Yeah. So basically, the way the ACA was set up is we capped the percentage of your income you had to pay for insurance. What Biden did, but we didn't make that. We made that cap pretty high, and we cut it off at a certain point. What Biden did was lower the cap and apply it to everyone. So Biden said no one will have to pay more than 8% of their income for health insurance.
Okay.
That is now expiring. When that expires, two things happen. One is people have to pay more for insurance, and we know that people may pay more for insurance. The healthiest drop first. So the healthiest people will drop out of the insurance pool. That will raise the cost for everyone remaining. Because remember, we don't have a mandate anymore.
Which makes the mandate. I'm sorry.
It will raise the cost for everyone remaining. On top of that, they will have less of a subsidy with which to pay those costs. So it's a double whammy. So people are getting hit for two reasons. The underlying premium's going up, and the percent of income they have to pay for that premium is also going up. And that's why you're getting, on average, about $1,000 increase per person in the exchange, with increases up to $1,000 a month for some older people.
But the mandate would mean that young people would have to go into it, and they're generally healthier, and that would bring down the cost for everybody. Mitt Romney, a million years ago, when he was talking about this in Massachusetts, talked about he didn't call them freeloaders, he called them free riders. But essentially, that's what you are. If you're 25 years old, you get in a car accident, you wind up in the emergency room, and you don't have any insurance. Other people's premiums are paying for that. So is it just for our individualistic obsession, or what is the opposition? What is the conservative argument against the mandate that makes financial sense?
Well, remember, Marjorie, the mandate was a conservative idea because Bill Clinton wanted to mandate employers to provide insurance,
That's
and they
right.
wanted an alternative. So there's no principal conservative argument against the mandate. It was a conservative idea. Mitt Romney wanted it because he believes in individual responsibility.
Right.
That was why he believed in the mandate. I then helped him show with the model I had. I then worked with Ron to show that not only pro individual responsibility, it lowers insurance costs. So that was sort of my contribution to it, was to say, look, I know you want it because of individual responsibility, but guess what? There's another bonus. It brings insurance costs down. And that's why he liked the mandate. That's why Obama adopted the mandate, despite the fact, remember, the opposition to the mandate was primarily from the left. So Obama adopted, even though the opposition was from the left. And then only once Obama adopted it did it become an anathema to the right.
Why was it fought against by the left?
Oh, because they thought it would cause employers to stop offering insurance.
Oh, okay.
The number one biggest critic of the individual mandate was the head of the AFL-CIO, who said if you require individuals to have insurance, not employers, they'll all get it on their own. Turns out he was wrong. Employer insurance actually went up in Massachusetts after we passed our law.
You know what we should do, by the way? You should rejoin us before the vote in the Senate on the Obamacare subsidies in December, so we can fill in a lot of the blanks for people, including us, before the Senate votes. Hey, John, that was great as always. Thanks so much.
You bet. Take it easy, guys.
Thank you very much, Jonathan Gruber, who knows everything. We love to talk to him. Anyway, we've been speaking with John Gruber,
Marjorie
professor.
has no idea what we're doing next. She's still.
I do.
No, you don't.
I absolutely do. It's Am I the A-hole Day?
That is
I just want to
correct.
say who John Gruber is.
Who is he?
He's Ford Professor of Economics and Chair at MIT's Department of Economics, and he was instrumental in creating both the Massachusetts Healthcare Reform and the Affordable Care Act. And that's important. If we had a mandate, it'd be a lot less for everybody, wouldn't it? Okay, Jim's fault, as so many of these things are. Coming after this quick break. A woman struggles, no name please, with technology at work and turns to her younger colleagues for help one too many times. It's time for Am I the A-hole? Your calls and texts will explain it all in detail. Up next, I'm Marjorie Egan. He's Jim Browdy. You're listening to BPR 89.7 GBH, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News.
Clothing prices are ticking up thanks to inflation and tariffs, and more people are saying they don't have to buy new stuff, they'll rent it instead.
I don't really want to hang on to pieces forever. So the trends will have changed. My taste might have changed.
I'm Elsa Chang. The rising popularity of clothing rentals on All Things Considered from NPR News.
Today at 4, here on GBH News 89.7.
Our programs are made possible thanks to you.
And Forge Heat Pumps in Newton. All-in-one heat pumps provide heating and cooling for your whole home or just a single room. Learn more about how they work and how they can help shrink your carbon footprint at forgeheatpumps.com. And Fixed Dental, offering permanent teeth-on implants, customized in their laboratory, enabling their doctors and technicians to oversee every aspect of the smile design. Learn more about all the treatments offered at Fixed at fixeddental.com.
Welcome back to BPR. Marjorie Egan and Jim Browdy, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. Back at the library tomorrow. The mayor is, that actually is, well, we'll get to that. You should read that in a second.
Yeah.
It was just posted for us by our colleagues. Ask the Mayor is November 18th, as I'm sure you know by now. Yo-Yo Ma's coming the next day, both to the library. Happy Thursday and welcome to another round of Marjorie's favorite segment, Am I the A-hole? This week's dilemma from Reddit. A young professional is frustrated with the amount of pro bono IT help they're expected to offer their older, less tech-savvy work colleague. This strikes a little bit too close to home.
It does.
And when we say less tech savvy, this woman is totally illiterate when it comes to computers. She needs help. This is true, according to Reddit. She needs help finding her deleted emails, figuring out how to log on to Zoom, or change the size of a font in a Word document. When she's not asking for help, you can hear her swearing and muttering to herself loudly as she's struggling to try to figure it out on her own. It all comes to a head one day when the younger colleague, that's the person who posted on Reddit, bristles and tells this older colleague they don't have the time to help them, to which they're accused by the older colleague of, quote, creating a toxic work environment. The number is 877-301-8970. Call or text. Who's the a-hole? Is it the younger worker who can't spend even 30 seconds helping this woman log into Zoom for the 700th time? Or can you make the case the older woman is an a-hole for being so needy when it comes to doing very elementary aspects of her job? Now, in light of the fact that you are racked with guilt about everything, I assume you think the older person is the a-hole, correct?
Well, in this situation, I mean, the older woman is the a-hole because she starts screaming at everybody when this woman says she can't come in and help her, and the younger woman was running late for a meeting and had with a client and apologized, and the older woman began yelling that I was creating a toxic work environment, leaving to her to fend for herself, and coworkers are supposed to support each other, and millennials are disrespectful, and blah blah blah. I must say, when I get help from my colleagues, I try to grovel as much as possible because I do need a lot of help from my colleagues, and I'm appreciative, that they come in and help me. Unlike you, who says, "I need a computer help. Get in here."
I didn't say no. They put the text that I sent them: need computer help, no rush. I mean, let me give you an example, by the way. I am totally on the side of the young, well, let me explain to you.
Okay.
I'm on the side of the old person, I should say here.
That's right.
No, you're
I'm on the
against
side of the young person.
Right, I knew you didn't know.
You don't want to be rude to people. You should be grateful.
I'm not saying you should be rude. However, there's certain computer things that are really difficult. For example, Josh, our colleague in IT, came to my house, and by the way, I would have fixed it. It was incredibly complex. He came last week. He fixed it relatively. Excuse me, I'm not done yet. I had a really complex problem with both my printer and my. You can say whatever you're going to say in a minute. And my computer, I couldn't fix it. I tried, and I couldn't fix it. He came out because he has expertise.
Okay,
and he fixed it.
Josh came back and told one person who let it be widely known that he had to go all the way to Jim Browdy's house for all his complex problems.
He did.
And he got there, and he found out that your modem was unplugged.
Well, that's probably true. The modem may have been unplugged. That is true.
I shouldn't be laughing because the same kind of thing has happened to me.
That is a true story, by the way.
You get one of these guys from IT, and they're like 23 years old, and they come over to your house, and they're trying to control themselves when they realize that the problem is nothing is plugged in.
You're creating a toxic workplace.
Yeah.
But the reality is a lot of older people didn't grow up learning how to use computers. They can be helpful to young people in things in which they have experience. And the younger...
Like what?
Like plugging in the modem. For example, I don't know what, but something.
No.
Judgment. Their judgment is seasoned through the years.
So the question is
by the way, this is the picture. This is really insulting. That is the red wall in the room in which I work.
Picture.
That is my sneaker.
Look
and
at that
is Josh
red
taking
wall.
a picture.
Aren't you fancy?
A red wall. That is Josh ridiculing me, apparently, by showing him about to plug in the modem. Yeah.
That's interesting
that's
picture.
What he said.
It's red wall and a dirty sneaker.
It's not dirty.
On the floor.
That's my sneaker.
That's really a red wall.
Okay, fine.
That's unusual, Jim.
877-301-8970. Who's the a-hole here? The younger person who has decided totally inappropriately to not give even 30 seconds to help the older worker.
You know what?
Or the older worker who admittedly did not only make a demand in terms of work, but then trash the younger worker
the other thing,
for not helping out.
Is older workers, and I'm one of them, sometimes be lazy about it. You can get one of our staff here to help, or you can call your kid on the phone. The problems with asking your children, though, I don't know if you have this experience, they don't really want to help you, your children. They come over to visit, and you're ready there, because my kids have all grown up and they're out of the house now. They come over, and I have a computer problem. They just fix it. They don't want to tell you
something?
how to fix it.
I say to my younger kid, I say, do not fix this. Show me how to fix this, because it's a recurring problem. She has no interest, no time.
They're really
she
ticked off.
fixes it in a nanosecond and then leaves.
On the other hand, I've also found when it's like the middle of the night and I had to do something, when I used to work for the Globe and I was up 2 o'clock in the morning trying to do my column and I couldn't get it in, there was a problem, that if you sit there in front of the computer for 15, 20 minutes, half hour, you can usually figure it out yourself. But I'm in a rush and I'm lazy and I don't want to do that. We have apparently...
No, this is always a big mistake. No, this is always a big mistake
response
when they create sound. Go ahead.
Whenever Jim needs tech help. Here it is.
Okay, are you ready? I don't know who he is.
That's actually
we also have sound
funny.
Of Zoe's response.
Make it stop.
Those are actually both fairly funny.
Okay.
Do I really ask for help? Well, I do, actually, pretty much. I
do too. Half the time I'm flummoxed. I can't find the text
Can
messages.
I say something? I want to say something.
I forget to check, and then we're on the air, and I haven't checked, and there's no text messages.
Okay, I want to say something
them.
before we get to the calls. You and I, well, not you. I am not that inept when it comes to computer technology. Would you not agree? I mean, what are you making a face about? I'm not. I mean, I'm not great, but I'm pretty competent.
All right.
And how are you?
I would not say that I am competent.
No, neither would I.
No, but I wouldn't say that you are pretty competent either.
Boy, they're now using this. I am not that inept. That was quoting.
But let's talk to the listeners about this. Who is the jerk here, and why is it? This is my existential question.
What is it?
Why is it that people who are baby boomers, anybody over 50, or maybe it's over 60 now, both baby boomers, whatever, you're older, and is it that we're lazy? That our brains just don't work that way. I mean, you look at these kids that are 2 years old, and they're finding all the pictures on the phone.
Because they're growing up with the technology. You didn't grow up with the technology.
I didn't, but your brains haven't changed that much. You know what I mean? So why is it that it's so difficult for people that are older to figure out?
I asked one of the young producers on the show to show me how to use a dial telephone, and they couldn't do it because they didn't grow up with it.
Here's a good one. The real question, Jim, is does Jordan Hudson do Bill Belichick's IT?
I bet that's not all. Let's move on. Michelle in Barrington, Rhode Island, you are first on MIVA Hall. Hello there. Hello, what's up?
Well, I have to say I sided maybe a lot like Marjorie with both of the employees because I have young children, and I am definitely the older employee.
Yeah.
And I have asked younger employees to help me in my job.
What happens?
I'm retired now, but
what happens?
They were very kind about it, but it got so that I was repeating the question because I would, let's say, get on a Zoom call.
Yeah.
Let's just say that.
Sure.
They would get me on. My husband does that now. Get me on. And then the next time I needed to do that, which might be 3 weeks from then, I couldn't remember how to do it. So it got so that it was easier for them to just do it for me. Quick, do it. But my advice would be, and I wish I had done this, and I'm planning to do it, is to go to your local library, make an appointment with the tech person, and go over and over. The other thing is, since I've retired, I've gotten an iPad.
You have.
And honestly, I was so paranoid of making a mistake on all of my work computers and everything that now with the iPad, I just press the buttons and eventually I get what I need.
That advice to people to just press the buttons is excellent. Michelle, that's really helpful.
The buttons.
Just press the buttons. Michelle, thank you. That was excellent.
Okay.
Now, here is a disrespectful anonymous texter. You were right. Boomers are not inept, Jim. They are lazy and impatient.
Well, there is a lot of laziness
Just go to YouTube or Google and learn how to do everything.
It is true. When you can't figure out how to do something, you just go and say, how do I find my text messages? And the machine, the AI now will tell you how to do it. You have to print out what they tell you, though, because you can't remember what they said if you turn it off.
But by the time you hit print, you forgot what you were doing, so you can't really do that.
Okay. Tilio in Nashua, New Hampshire. What do you think?
Great name. Hi. Hey, Tilio, say something.
Are you there?
Apparently not. We'll put you on hold. We don't know what happened to you, but we'll try you again in a second.
Jane Brighton makes a great point. This is the perfect time for the CVS Help is on the way.
That's right. I hate that sound. Carol in Saugus, what's your deal?
I am an older person.
Yeah.
And even when I was working corporate, you'd be teaching somebody something, and they don't take notes. And this applies to everybody.
Horrible.
It's like, oh, show me how to do this.
Horrible.
Well, you tell people to write it down. I would show somebody something twice. And I said, I'm showing you this. Take notes because don't ask me again.
Whoa.
And then, or you get, computers for dummies. You get those dummy books.
Yeah, I got a lot of those.
But you can take classes at the library or some adult ed that show you how to use a computer.
Yeah.
So people are just lazy.
Well, but in all fairness, Carol, it's not using it's not using the computer. It's some of the more nuanced problems.
That's why
we know how to use a computer.
That's why you take notes.
You do.
Or you go to the Apple store.
That's an excellent thing.
Or you have Apple 24-hour available help.
Well, if you have a coworker, why do you need to go to the Apple store? I don't want to go to the library. I love libraries. I want to ask one of my coworkers who knows how to do it, and they'll do it. I mean, what's the problem? Carol, thanks for the call.
Best investment. Because it's aggravating.
It is aggravating. Well,
That's right.
My attitude is get over it. That's what.
Do you have an Apple computer at home?
Yes.
Yeah. Customer service from Apple?
Yeah.
It's unbelievable.
Exactly. See,
you have to pay for it. I don't care.
No, you have Apple Care.
You can call them at that's right. You buy Apple Care. It's worth every dime. You call them at 2:00 in the morning. They do everything. They do stuff they're not supposed to do. It's always like Paul in Santa Monica, and you talk with him. Hey, but Paul from Santa Monica, and he will explain. He'll connect the printer. He'll do all these things.
Yeah. Now, let me just say this: which is easier? Calling the Apple line or saying, hey, Jamie, Zoe, can you help me? We're coworkers. What's the big deal? How often do they ask us to do things for them? Like every day, right?
No, they don't ask us to do anything.
Well, they might.
We're the ones that are making all the demands here, Jim.
No, they might. And if they did, I'd consider doing it.
They haven't done it. It's been 10 years.
It's been longer, actually.
Mary in Medway has a great idea.
What is it?
What she does is she brings baked potatoes to work, and she gives one to anybody who helps her.
Yeah.
There you go.
Well, Mary is the one who came up with the line, is that a baked potato in your pocket? Are you glad to see me? That was Mary from Medway.
Maybe that's what we need to do. Bring a $20 bill, Jim. Every time you get a little help,
the real problem with this, if I may say, other than the ridicule from our colleagues, you are guilt-ridden about everything. You don't like asking anybody. Often I have to ask on your behalf. No, it's true. Because God forbid she asks a coworker to help her out.
You have to ask me something.
It's not
for
that
me
big a deal.
Later.
What is it?
I told you already.
I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that. Julia in Boston, you are next on BPR. Welcome to the show. How are you?
Hi, I'm good.
Great.
Thank you for taking my call.
Thank you.
I wanted to comment on the conversation earlier about Dave and Marjorie, you getting help from your kids, or maybe not getting help from your kids with regard to technology. Because my mom and I had kind of a breakthrough in this a few years ago, and I didn't recall actually what it was that precipitated the breakthrough, but she told me recently that she's now known in her friend circle as the technology expert.
Wow.
And she attributes this to my teaching. I am an educator by profession, so I guess that helps. But what she said I told her is that I just needed to let go of the fear of making a mistake. So kind of like your caller was saying earlier about the iPad being easier. I guess what I had explained to her was just that, like, she kept saying she didn't know how to do something, and I kept saying, well, you haven't tried. Like, you have to poke around, you have to open up the menus, you have to do that, and you're not going to break the computer. And so what she parroted back to me was like, you told me I wasn't going to break the computer and to stop being afraid of making a mistake, and now I know how to use my computer properly.
Julia, I hate to put a damper on your beautiful story, but it's not always the outcome. Okay. For example, some days here, after I've been here a few hours and I have notes, voluminous notes for the show, I attempt to fix something and I erase all my work from the day. And
You do it. This is the one I really don't understand.
What's that?
Well, that's why you save the documents.
I don't like saving documents.
Yeah, you don't like saving documents.
Because people spy on you if they save the stuff. They do. You don't want people looking at your stuff.
For you.
What's that, Julia?
I have a solution.
Oh, please.
You just need to use, and I'm not paid by Google, I promise, but you just need to use Google Docs because they save them for you, and if you make a mistake, you can go to the history and then go, like, revert to the previous version.
That's unbelievable.
Yeah, Jim doesn't want to say anything because he thinks everyone's spying on him.
They're always fixable.
So
Julia, that
here's
was excellent,
what happens.
actually.
I can't find the text. I mean, it is embarrassing what goes on 5 minutes before the show starts.
No,
I
it is
can't find the text
embarrassing.
message. And Jim is, They erased my notes. They erased my notes. They erased my notes. We have done this. I've probably seen you do this 50 times.
So what?
Where at 2 minutes of 11,
so what?
Some poor kid is running in here trying to find...
Make it stop.
Exactly. Your notes, because you don't want to save them. Because you think someone is interested in writing down what you thought about Jonathan Gruber.
Exactly.
What you thought about the
my
kid who
Gruber
just won
notes
the
are
award.
my Gruber notes, Marjorie. They're not yours. They're not one of our staff persons.
Okay, listen to this. Oh, my God. I'm on the flip side, this texter says. I'm in Gen Z. My colleagues and boss are millennials. And instead of being creative in problem solving and figuring something out on their own, they always just ask me. I was nice about it for a while, but after a few months, this is the part I don't understand. I now just say, there's a SOP for that in the folder. There's
Standard operating procedure.
There you go. What was that again?
Standard operating procedure.
Okay. So
we even have to ask. That's how pathetic we are.
This Gen Z is sick of the millennials. And, pretty soon you're going to be asking, like, infants. You're going to ask the infant how to use the iPhone because the 1.5-year-old is going to be able to figure it out.
This is getting a little dicey. Look at the note that one of our colleagues wrote. The irony is everyone would, and then capital letters, jump to help Marjorie quickly, but drag their feet on whatever latest thing Jim needs.
Now, I don't know who he is.
Exactly.
That's because you asked for so many things.
Yeah.
You asked for 19,000 things.
I do.
You do.
I do.
And we probably need 3 of them.
You know what people call me, actually, and they mean this as a compliment. I know this for a fact.
Anal?
The asker. Many of my friends call me the S. They do call me a big A. Actually, is that what they mean when they say that?
I've said this before, but why not say it again? When we used to do debates, which I really didn't like to do, but you like to do them. The debate would be in 2 weeks. Jim would present me with a pile that was like 2.5 feet high of everything I had to read.
Were you prepared by the debate night?
No.
Well, wait a second. Since you brought that up.
Jim, you do the follow-up
Okay,
questions.
fine. So when I helped Marjorie prepare for our joint debates, we were both prepared. When Marjorie did debate, as some of you know, in the past, when I was not working with her, the first question she asked Senator John Kerry was, why does no one like you, Senator?
I thought it was a great question.
That was really,
nobody did like him, and we wanted to get to the bottom of that.
Marjorie was in the bathroom for that debate. Was that against Weld?
It was Weld versus
one of
Kerry.
the biggest debates ever in the Senate campaign between 2 intellectual giants.
Prepared.
Marjorie's in the bathroom realizing before the debate she didn't have a first question.
Yeah, I had kind of a death wish going on.
Okay,
it was a bad period
Nancy
in my life.
in Brighton, who's the a-hole? The older worker who needs help or the younger worker who won't give it?
Okay, so I'm an older worker, and I'm not that great with computers, but recently a younger worker asked me why I was so lame.
Oh,
and
no.
I thought that was pretty rude.
That was really rude.
No, I am pretty lame. I'm not going to lie, but I don't think the older workers, I think she was wrong. I'm with Marjorie that we need to grovel when we need help with a computer.
Oh, that's a beautiful message, Nancy. That's lovely.
Yeah,
Thank
I've been
you.
doing
Groveling
a lot of groveling.
Is the key.
Groveling
Thank
is the way
Nancy.
to go, I think. Thank you for that call,
Thanks,
Nancy.
Nancy.
Paul from Marshfield says, I refuse to teach younger coworkers how to use the slide rule.
That's a good point.
Wow, what happened to the slide rule company? That must have just gone right down the business.
Anonymous texter, whoops, it's the repetitiveness. Clearly the younger person has helped in the past. They're tired of it. By the way, that point I agree with.
It's true.
And that gets back to what we were talking about with our kids. Always I ask, tell me if this is not true. Please show me how to do it.
That's right.
And then I'll forget that, and then I'll ask you again. What are you
often
saying?
the person that you ask has no interest in showing you how.
None.
They just want to do it and go back to what they're doing.
Yeah, and then badmouth you. That's the goal here.
And then talk to the other siblings
Oh,
about
look who this is. Remember Helen, the flight attendant? We met Helen at the library. Am I right about that? And like a day later, Jamie is flying somewhere to get away from us. And who's the flight attendant on the plane?
Helen, the flight
We saw a
attendant.
photograph of Helen with Jamie and whoever else. The day after I went on your show at the library, we met him. It's getting harder in our world as we have the senior mamas and papas, Helen's not that old, who have all the wisdom on how to help and assist our passengers. But now we've evolved in doing so much more on a work iPhone, and the younger stews are forced to help. But like Marjorie, it helps to grovel. And Nancy, I've had friends quit the job due to the new Apple technology. Well, that's really sad.
Well, that's really distressing when they change something. Like when Windows, I know many people who've had a life crisis when Windows went from Windows 7 to Windows 9 to Windows 10 or something, and they couldn't take it. They just couldn't take it.
Yeah, I want to say also, I shouldn't get into
That's why they have to go to Apple
an intro
and
show
get the customer service
fight on the air. But Marjorie is not, I've known you for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
You are, when it comes to computers, first of all, you've improved.
Thank you.
Your password is no longer password, it's password 1, which I think speaks to the fact that you've really matured in terms of your computer
It's actually not.
skill.
I have a very long and involved password
which
now.
you never remember, right? Is that true? Thank you. Brendan in Burlington, you're next.
Excuse me, who was the person that said, you know, it's a really great day
What?
when no one asked me for my username and my password.
That's pretty good. Brendan in Burlington, what's your deal? Hi.
Hey, how's it going?
Excellent.
So, I thought I'd call at a couple of points I wanted to make. So, one of the jobs that I do is actually IT support.
Oh.
For groups of older people.
Wow.
And I also do, on my own, I also do home visits.
Wow.
And I think one of the key things that I've seen sort of come up is people often, maybe they talk down a little bit to the person that's trying to help them.
Oh.
And that's not necessarily helpful, especially when it's free, right?
That's a very good point.
And just as like an idea, like if I were to show up at your house, it's going to be $150 minimum just to start to help with anything.
Wow.
And so, there's that point. And then the other thing is, I can admit, like, the technology is changing all the time and there's constant updates, and it is hard to keep track of everything.
So Brendan, you're...
Yep.
Oh, go ahead. What was your third point?
Oh, the last thing I was going to say is I also try to take this approach where I do try to teach the person and just don't hand them the solution.
Excellent.
Honestly, one of the most important skills where you can sort of figure out things on your own is knowing how to Google the question that you're trying to figure out.
Brendan, we're out of time. Can I ask you a quick question? Since you sound unlike our coworkers,
you
actually know what you're talking about.
Best way to go.
Now, how much would it cost me to have you come to my house to show me how to plug in the modem? How much into the wall? What would you charge me for that?
I mean, it's just anything. It's $150 just to show up at your house. Because once I'm there, I have to figure out what the problem is, and that's the other thing too. Is that sometimes people don't understand the problem, and so I have to spend the time sort of figuring out what it is that is the issue and what you've tried before and why you can't figure it out.
I think you're a bargain, in my humble opinion. Brendan, thank you for sharing your perspective.
What's Jared over here, this youngin'? Are you a Gen Xer or millennial? What are you?
Whatever the hell you are. Do you know what our topic is?
You just helped me. You have no idea. I was just sitting in my studio down the hall, and I thought, oh my goodness, there's that thing that I couldn't figure out. And so I walked my computer in Max, Chow Gillette from the show. I had to say, I don't think he appreciated my saying, Max, I can't get the thing with all the things on it.
What's wrong with that?
I just did a lot of pointing to my computer, but he fixed it in about 14 seconds.
Did he complain or not?
He didn't, because it was going south for me, definitely, for a minute, and then he realized that it was an unusual problem.
I don't think it's an unreasonable expectation.
So is it because we're lazy and impatient, and we want the 25-year-old to come rescue us?
No.
Or is it...
We just don't have... We didn't grow up with all of this, so we don't have the inherent aptitude for it to fix the thing with the thing.
No, you know what it is?
Yeah.
I am so invested in the creativity that I show every day. That takes a huge amount of energy out of me.
Jim actually is quite creative.
I am?
Yes.
Why are you moving my mic?
Thank you. Oh, here we go again. We need somebody to help us with that.
He makes too many requests. Every morning we come in and he's got like a paper with like 37 requests.
Yeah, I may have 37 requests. Marjorie said, who are the guests?
Yeah.
Where's the show? Who's on? What order are they in? I left my cover sheet at home.
Yeah.
I never had a cover sheet. What is a cover sheet? So, I mean, don't be criticizing me.
Well, that's why it works, Jim.
Okay,
you have the
fine.
37 requests, and I have nothing.
There is a positive up and down when I host with either of you. Yeah. With Jim, I know I can walk in and the whole show is taken care of.
Exactly.
With you, I get to talk. That's the thing.
Well, I would give that up if I were
Things are a little up in the air.
Okay, fine. What are you doing on your show? Where you can talk all you want, pretty much.
We're going to be talking about Alan Rohan Crite with the two exhibitions that are on.
About that.
Oh, my gosh. I just saw I told you
Isn't it beautiful?
Oh, God.
Yeah. And so one of the co-curators, Ted Lensmark, among many curators,
that's
joining
right.
us. So he'll be on the show. John Lamb, former principal dancer with Boston Ballet. He is launching a new dance company, so he'll talk about the first effort underway this weekend. And then we have Jackson Cannon coming on. He's a cocktail guru, and he's really, really incredible. He was so foundational to the cocktail scene here in Boston. So we'll talk about new classes he's starting, and then he'll guide us through fall and holiday cocktails.
There are some incredible people make incredible. It's not just like gin and tonic anymore. We're talking real creativity.
I never was into cocktails till like 5 years ago. Isn't that an amazing story?
It's amazing, Jim.
It's fascinating.
We're all very excited about that.
I got to go plug in my modem, so could you speak quickly, if you don't mind?
Thank you very much for listening to another edition of Boston Public Radio. Thank you, Jared. Keep up with us 24/7 by way of our podcast, or check out our TikTok page at Boston Public Radio. Tomorrow, we're going to be back at the Boston Public Library. The woman who runs the Boston Globe, Nancy Barnes, is going to be with us, as well as Shirley Leung, who, as you know, is a business columnist there. We're going to have a media
By the way, Linda Henry runs the Boston Globe.
Well, she's
the editor,
she owns it. Yeah, she owns it. Barnes is the editor. Thank you, Jim. Okay. Our media analysis press play segment, they're going to be in that. Callie Crossley is going to be with us Live Music Friday with the folks from Shelter Music Boston, NBC 10's Boston. Sue O'Connell, our media maven, fresh back from chopping down that Christmas tree in Nova Scotia that they put in the middle of, where did they put that? City Hall, I guess? Where did they put the tree?
I don't think so. Maybe, I don't know.
Is it in Boston Common?
I don't know.
We should know that.
Okay, find out.
Our crew is Zoe Matthews, Aidan Collin, Nicole Garcia, Hannah Loss, Colin Cockrell ran our stream today. Our engineer, John LaClaw Parker, our executive producer, Jamie Bologna, the long-suffering.
On the Common, by the way.
On the Common, thank you. He is long-suffering. If you had like 47 things to find out in 15 minutes every morning, you'd be suffering too. Students of the Culture Show with Jared Bowen. Right after us, he's Jim Brown. Oops, go ahead.
Oh, I'm Jim Brown.
I'm Marjorie Egan. Thanks for tuning in.
I don't know who he is.
Goodbye.
DAR.org. Catch the classic Shakespearean comedy of mistaken identity that tells the romantic misadventures of twins Sebastian and Viola after they survive a shipwreck. Watch great performances, 12th Night, tomorrow at 9 on GBH2.
You're listening to 89.7 WGBH HD1 Boston. Online at gbhnews.org. GBH News. What matters to you?
I'm Jared Bowen. Coming up on The Culture Show, the legacy and idealism of Alan Rohan Crite. For decades, the Boston artist chronicled the everyday lives of his neighbors in the South End and Roxbury. A self-described artist reporter, he painted what he saw. Church processions, children at play, families gathering on stoops, revealing the beauty, dignity, and divinity of ordinary black life. Now the Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum and the Boston Athenaeum have come together for a major joint retrospective celebrating his enduring impact. Then, after more than 2 decades with Boston Ballet, principal dancer John Lamb takes a bold leap into his next act. He's launched Lamb Dance Works, a new company built on collaboration and creative exploration. We'll talk with Lamb about his vision for this new chapter and his upcoming debut performance. And it's Radio on the Rocks. Boston's cocktail scene has long had a master behind the bar, Jackson Cannon, the beverage director at ES Hospitality and a legend of Eastern Standard. Now he's sharing his secrets, teaching a new series of holiday cocktail classes. That's all right now on The Culture Show, live on 89.7 and streaming on the GBH News YouTube channel.
The Culture Show is made possible in part by a generous contribution from the Fiducia Fund, proud to support this station's arts and culture programming.
I'm Jared Bowen. This is The Culture Show, also streaming on the GBH News YouTube channel. Alan Rohan Crite was Boston's great chronicler of everyday Black life. An artist, writer, community elder, and self-described artist reporter whose paintings and prints documented the South End and Roxbury neighborhoods across decades. He called his work a record, and always, with a heavy dose of optimism, captured Boston's Black community amid daily routines. Now, two Boston institutions he loved are presenting a citywide look at his legacy in a landmark double exhibition spanning his career. The Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum offers Alan Rohan Crite Urban Glory, and the Boston Athenaeum presents Alan Rohan Crite Griot of Boston. Joining us to talk about it all are Ted Landsmark, co-curator of Urban Glory at the Gardner, and Christina Miquelon, curator of Griot of Boston at the Athenaeum. And timing for this conversation could not be better. Boston Mayor Michelle Wu has declared today, November 13th, Alan Rohan Crite Day. Welcome to both of you. It's a pleasure to have you both here.
Thank you for having us, Jared.
Pleasure to be here.
Well, Ted, among many things, you are a legend in your own right for all sorts of reasons. Activist, brilliant mind, urban planner, everything. You also knew Alan Rohan Crite.
I did. I was running a small art gallery in the Fort Point Channel, and I wanted to show the work of underrepresented artists. And I was introduced to Alan, who came to look at the work of many of the younger artists he was mentoring. And I got to know him because of his desire to turn his home into a house museum that could serve as a kind of atelier to bring together younger artists.
Well, what did you recognize in him and how he saw and really processed the city through his art?
Alan was extraordinary because, unlike many other artists, he recognized that there was art all around him in the streets of the South End, that there were people who were undocumented in terms of the art world. And he wanted to show his neighbors and young people in the community and the spirituality that existed at that time in many of the churches. And so he got out and made a point of showing who lived in the African-American community at that time and what their daily lives were like.
Which we're showing images of his now on our GBH News YouTube channel. Christina, a career, a legacy, an output so large it has to span two institutions. How did you begin to grapple with everything he covered artistically?
Yeah, that's right. He was incredible. Fortune of stewarding so much of his work, ranging from incredible oil paintings to watercolors and greeting cards and all kinds of illustration and book illustration. And we knew for a long time that the Athenaeum really should do a major Alan Rohan Crite show. And at the same time, my good friend Diana Greenwald at the Gardner also was inspired to do a Crite show. And so we teamed up and really wanted to do this cross-city celebration of his work. And as you said, he made so much work that to have two institutions exhibiting it just seemed like the right call. And I think both institutions were really eager to tell different parts of his story, everything from his work for the Navy Yard, because he had this day job for decades when he was still making art for churches and for his community. So from the Navy Yard work to his embrace of the printing press and to his incredible neighborhood series that I think most people, if they know Alan Rohan Crite's work, they know his neighborhood series from the 30s and 40s. And so we wanted to just share all of those different facets of this incredible artist whose work really spanned the 20th century.
And in your show at the Athenaeum, we see he was pretty much an art star right from the get-go, exhibiting far and wide.
That's right. He went to the school of the MFA, and in the Athenaeum's collection, there's a sketchbook, and you see him even within that sketchbook, while he's still a student, working in so many different ways. He's doing incredibly naturalistic portraits. He's doing figure studies. He's doing stained glass window design. He's doing set design for Shakespearean plays. And to be able to pair, especially those wonderful portraits that he did in pencil with some of his later portraits that he's doing on his offset lithography press, I think just demonstrated that, he was classically trained, but he would embrace different media, and then he would embrace different modes of illustration too, especially in his liturgical work. He was just a true Renaissance man, I think, able to do so much.
Well, Ted, I was really struck when I walked through the Athenaeum show with Christina to understand how important it was to him to, and you see this in the Gardner show too, to get his art out into the world. And in fact, he moves from oil painting, which of course is a lengthier process, to printing, so it can be shared. What was his drive?
He was driven to generate a higher level of respect for people who lived in the community, and he knew that in order to achieve that, he had to engage people from the community, both in the exhibition of the work, but also in the making of the work. He knew that he could be a studio artist. He knew that he could get a lot of his work into local churches and the like, but he also understood that if he worked with some of the emerging artists in the community, he'd be able to get work from younger people and newer artists whose visual voices, in effect, needed to be heard and seen.
As you were brought into the fold, how did you begin to learn from him, and what did you take away from him?
Well, he maintained what might be called salon at this point. He brought people together, particularly after art openings, and he saw to it that there was meaningful dialogue among artists and community people about what was being shown, the quality of the work, and who was really being represented in work that depicted African American communities. So he became a real center within the Boston larger art community as a magnet for artistic expression that depicted communities of color.
If people are just tuning in, we're speaking with Ted Landsmark and Christina Mickelson, curators of shows at the Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum and the Boston Athenaeum of the work of Alan Rohan Crite. Christina, as I mentioned in the introduction, he is somebody who was bringing a great deal of optimism to his work, too, in what he saw in the city. We see so many families, we see so many children, and we see bustling life.
That's right. And actually, something Ted said, I think very early on in the development of this project, in speaking with Diana and I and a number of other people we consulted with, Ted, you said something along the lines of people see themselves in Crite's work because they are in Crite's work. Mm. So not only metaphorically seeing representations of Black life in his work, but the fact that he was drawing and painting his neighbors and those communities in the South End and in Lower Roxbury. And as you said, Jared, every facet of life, childhood, families, everyday life at church, commuting to school. There's even a print from later in his career of standing in line at the bank. And I think all of those mundane moments he found beauty in. And whether or not he was incorporating divine figures into those compositions, as he would in some of his work, he's really just showing, the beauty of everyday life in an incredible way, and both recording those moments for posterity, but also celebrating them.
Go ahead, Ted.
And he was both optimistic and forward-looking, and brought a lot of joy into his work as a way of expressing the joy that existed in the communities. But he wasn't afraid to address some of the hard issues either. Mm-hmm. His paintings and prints address issues of gentrification, neighborhood change, the challenges in raising families. He was definitely not a Pollyanna about what was going on in the neighborhoods around him.
Well, I was wondering about that because he had to withstand so much change in Boston, especially urban renewal, where we saw through decades neighborhoods were leveled homes were taken away, streets, neighborhoods, the whole connections were dismantled, and he was there to see it and displaced by it.
Well, and he also made a point of documenting it and documenting how people in the community were responding to it. You look at his work and you see groups of people coming together to discuss some of the issues. You see the community building that was going on within the churches within the community. You see a lot of references to people who clearly love each other and love their families, and they're all depicted with a certain kind of joy that shows that they're not despairing at all at the change, but are willing to come together to stand up to that change.
How did his wardrobe factor into this? Every picture we see in this exhibition, he is a dapper man who always carefully dressed himself wherever he was, it seems.
Yeah, there's no question of that. He presented himself with a huge amount of confidence and self-respect. And he expected that of the people around him as well. He was really, I think, a great role model for artists who, sometimes can go around looking kind of bedraggled. But Alan was the kind of person who felt that an artist played an important role in the community and should be
that a lot of this goes back to Mom, which I loved hearing and seeing in this story too. In fact, he had attended both of these institutions, the Gardner and the Athenaeum, among many others, with his mother, including this fabulous story at the Gardner Museum. Can you tell us about that, Christina?
That's right. So he also... his mother signed him up for these classes at the Children's Art Center in the South End, and not only would they teach art there, but they would take the students on field trips. And so the students went to the Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum. And at this time, Isabella was still living, and invited Mrs. Crite for tea. And I think that was a moment that really stayed with Crite. And of course, he was incredibly inspired by museums like the Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum, a house museum, of course. And he would come to the Athenaeum with his mother. He studied all kinds of work at the MFA with his mother and wrote about that. And he was just studying and making connections at so many institutions throughout Boston. He had wonderful relationships with so many cultural institutions in the area. And, he was like a library super user. He later would work at a library at Harvard. And I think, Harvard was another really important institution to both Anna May and to Alan. I think there's still a scholarship in their name at the continuing education school. And she was just this monumental influence on him, and a huge supporter of his work at kind of every stage of his life.
Well, you have both now mentioned the House Museum, and this all goes back to where he lived. In fact, it's moving enough that I paid homage about a week ago. I walked down Columbus Ave in the South End. Sadly, it's now condos, but that was very much not his intention. What did he want to happen with that space?
Well, he was very moved by the Gardner Museum, and he felt that the best way to try to experience an artist's work might be in situ. And so he always had the hope that he could turn his home, which was full of his art and books and inspirations, into a house museum. And that proved to be a major challenge because a South End row house only has one major means of egress. It meant changing staircases and installing safety systems and fire alarm systems and a range of other things that made it really essentially impossible to fulfill that dream. And yet, all of us who had the opportunity to experience the space knew that we were in a space that was very special. It was full of his work and the work of other African-American artists, and it was full of a spirit of what it means to bring culture into a community as a way of bringing people together.
And there are great pictures and video at the Gardner show that reflect and take us into, for those of us not privileged enough to be able to be in that home, to get a sense of that. And then I understand people like Mel King had at the storefront level, the street level, had a presence there too, because there was activism woven into what he was doing.
Well, the two of them lived only a couple of blocks apart, and they knew each other well. And when Mel was running his campaigns to become mayor of Boston, he and Alan agreed that having a Rainbow Coalition office on the ground floor made a lot of sense in that particular place because it was accessible and because it was in a community where everyone could fully understand the connection between culture and community.
And I should mention, while people can't visit the home, just a few doors down is a park that is being refurbished as we speak to open next year. That will be the Alan Rohan Crite Park. Christina, we've also talked about or alluded to the divinity in the everyday. And we get a sense of this in the broad spectrum of the work. In what way is that literally transposed, what he is seeing and the role that faith has had or did have in his career?
So it all comes back to his mother. I think she was also a devout Episcopalian, and he was as well. And he, I think, felt that he wanted to see Black people as part of these divine representations. And the Madonna and Child became a really important theme for him to return to. And he would start creating these incredible watercolors and illustrations that would have this apparition of Madonna and Child over the streets of Boston, on public transportation in the city. So Streetcar Madonna, which is one of the most incredible watercolors by Crite in the Athenaeum's collection, is on view at the Gardner and also the cover of our catalog. And it's just this incredibly tender representation of maternal care, but also, I think, sometimes the obliviousness of people around that kind of care. And it really, I think his interest in these religious themes really pervaded a lot of his work. He was incorporating church spires in the backgrounds of a lot of images. He was really just finding the divine in everyday life.
Ted, I never asked this question, what would he think? But I will in this case, because you knew the man, and also knowing that he very intentionally, with the House Museum, with the volume of work, he very much wanted this to be part of the city. What is your sense of what he would make of this moment? I have to say, I've thought a lot about it since I saw both the shows, and a day like today where the mayor is proclaiming it Alan Rohan Crite Day.
I think that he would be thrilled at the exhibitions, in large part because they are an inspiration to all of our communities, that there are artists within the communities who can tell the story, who can narrate what daily life is like within our communities. And Boston has become so diverse and so full of different, innovative, interesting cultures that I think Alan would look around and would say, there are more of me out here now. And I hope that these exhibitions inspire people to promote and to celebrate the art and culture that holds our communities together and also provides an identity for the diverse people who are now living within the region.
You give me goosebumps as you say that. Thank you so much for being here. Congratulations on all the work that you have done in these two really magnificent and, as I said, landmark shows. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ted Landsmark is co-curator of Alan Rohan Crite Urban Glory, which is on view at the Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum through January 19th. Christina Mickelson is curator of Alan Rohan Crite Griot of Boston, which is on view at the Boston Athenaeum through January 24th. We also, again, want to shout out Diana Greenwald for her work at the Gardner Museum as well. Thank you so much. Well, coming up, a body in motion stays in motion, and John Lamb proves it. The former Boston Ballet principal launches Lamb Dance Works on the eve of his first show. He joins us next on The Culture Show. Stay with us.
The Culture Show is made possible in part by a generous contribution from the Fiducia Fund, proud to support this station's arts and culture programming.
If you're hearing this, you're invited to join the conversation.
Jenny in Waltham, we're talking about procrastination. Welcome to the show. Hi.
Hi.
It's always something lively.
Thanks so much. And I want to start by saying that I've been a very, very long time listener, and I've been meaning to call in for at least 10 years.
There you go.
Good one.
There you go. You're with me.
Jim Braude, Marjorie Egan. Boston Public Radio. Weekdays from 11 to 2. Only on GBH 89.7.
Funding for our programs comes from you.
And the Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum, honoring Boston's own artist Alan Roan Crite and the neighborhoods he depicted in concurrent exhibitions with the Boston Athenaeum. On view through January 19th. More at gardnermuseum.org.
And Safety Insurance, offering a variety of home insurance products to cover your home's increased value. You can ask an independent agent about safety insurance. Safety Insurance will help you manage life's storms. And Boston Ballet, presenting the Nutcracker. This holiday tradition mesmerizes audiences of all ages with beloved characters and Tchaikovsky's memorable score. On stage starting November 28th. Official tickets at bostonballet.org.
New Englanders are curious, informed, and engaged. And that's why Champion Circle members invest in GBH with annual gifts of $900 or more. It's just one way to make a big impact. Learn more at gbh.org/champion-circle.
I'm Jared Bowen. This is The Culture Show, also streaming live on our GBH News YouTube channel. For more than 20 years, John Lamb was a principal dancer with Boston Ballet, celebrated for his precision, stamina, and the way he told stories through movement. Now, at a turning point in his career, he's leapt into a new role with Lamb Dance Works, a company built on collaboration and creative risk. Its debut performance, Act 2, takes the stage this Saturday at the Emerson Paramount Center. John Lamb joins us to talk about his next act and vision for the company. Welcome back to the show. Great to see you.
Good to see you too. Thank you so much for having me.
Well, this is a major, major effort. First of all, tell us about what you're doing now and your philosophy for this new, I was going to say company, but I know you think of it as a collective that you've assembled.
Correct. Right now, being part of the Boston Conservatory at Berkeley, faculty there, I realized I needed to do something more impactful, and bridging those gaps where artists leave the conservatory and try to find work. And I figured, I think I need to create a company where it could bring opportunity and access to anyone that strives to go for the stars and try to collaborate with big artists and choreographers and land in a place where they can be seen and to really explore their art.
Which is an exploration I imagine you did after you looking back at your career and the development you had, the mentors you had, the opportunities you were given?
Absolutely. This is for me more or less a full circle where I can totally give back and empower the emerging artists and choreographers here in Boston, bringing it all here so that people don't have to feel that they have to go so far away to find these types of opportunities. I was blessed to have them here at Boston Ballet for the past 20 years, and I'm so grateful to offer this experience to all my artists that joins Lamb Dance Works.
Well, what's coming up this weekend? Because I don't know how you've pulled this off. You're pulling from literally all over the world.
Absolutely. Of 8 beautiful pieces that will be presented this Saturday evening. It is a robust evening of dance, and this is just part of what I'm trying to do and bring here in Boston, where I have artists from New York, from Naples, Italy, to Chicago, from San Francisco. So they're coming all over the place and bringing them here in an intimate place and setting at the Emerson Paramount Center. I believe that art can be experienced in so many different ways, and this beautiful home that's been given to Lamb Dance Works for quite some time, so it will be a home to Lamb Dance Works for a few years down the road. So I'm hoping to establish myself and be a company where I can stay and allow the audience to experience this new vision that I have for Lamb Dance Works.
I want to go back to what you were just saying, an intimate setting to experience dance in different ways. What as opposed to what people may, and it's certainly not denigrating it at all, but when people go to a big hall and they see dance in among hundreds, if not thousands of people, what will be the different kind of experience that you give?
I believe that when you're in an intimate setting and you really get to see the work and understand the work on a more intimate level versus going to a big hall, you're just seeing a big name and big ballets and big orchestras. This is beautiful, but there's other rarities that we don't get to experience when we get to really sit right there in front of an artist or a musician or a singer or an actor, and understand the process of how that was brought up rather than just always seeing the end product. I think that Lamb Dance Works will allow this to happen in a smaller setting, so it forces people to really hone into the work and gives them a more transformative experience than more of a I sit here, you dance kind of a background versus we're collaborating all together.
And a deeper understanding of the stories that can be told through the movement of the body.
Absolutely. I mean, there's so many different pieces these 8 pieces that I'm particularly bringing are nuances, just little speckles of what has inspired me through my 20 years. Of course, I can't bring everything in one evening because people will get bored, but not to me. But to be now in the seat of an artistic director and founder of my own organization, to choose different pieces and curate it in a way where people can really adapt to in the times now where attention span isn't so long anymore, and people want end results. And so I'm really trying to dig into the emotional human aspect of art, because we are so enthralled with technology and AI, which is all beautiful, amazing things. But art, I believe, really hones the human soul, the mind and body.
So you're mindful of that. You're mindful of the shorter attention spans.
Absolutely. My program is only an hour, 20 minutes. So it's not a 2-hour, 3-hour act ballet. I love them, of course. It's part of the makeup of who I am. And so I understand that. But I also understand the need for what the audience need as well. Besides the artists themselves, what we need to grow as an artist, there are the patrons that come to experience the art. They are artists themselves. So how do we help them understand what they need? And so for me, Lamb Dancers give this opportunity of a way where I can offer many different facets. So it's not just sitting one ballet and you're only seeing one choreographer, or you see only one ballet. You're really experiencing like 8 different choreographers, 8 different voices that can touch you, that might not touch you, might educate you, might make you think differently. So this is something that I'm really intrigued about, and something that isn't really given here in Boston. So I'm happy to bring it here.
I'm speaking with John Lamb, the founder and artistic director of Lamb Dance Works. Act 2, their debut performance, will take place this Saturday at the Emerson Paramount Center. This is also so much about the new, and are things that we maybe haven't seen before, or if we haven't had the opportunity to travel, definitely haven't seen before?
Absolutely. There are all the pieces that are on the program have not been seen here in Boston in its entirety. So I'm very excited to showcase it here in Boston.
What has it been for you to transition out of your regular role at the Boston Ballet for all those years? The last time, people can go back and listen to our interview when you were on the verge of dancing your last performance. I'll ask you about what that was like.
Yes.
But to be moving into this new artistic director role.
You know, it's been a journey, and it still continues to be a journey. I think that I'm very open and vulnerable about learning and relearning and figuring out what being an authentic leader is and what my voice is here in Boston. I will be dancing in the evening.
That was one of my questions.
So, you know, there's a new world premiere that's being created by my dear choreographer friend, Yorba Imlo, who've cultivated 20 years of information together. So I haven't totally hung up my dance belt yet, but I'm still dancing. But more interested in how I'm leading the organization, where I'm carefully choosing and crafting not just the dancers, but also your production group, your production staff, your administrative support, all the people that really encapsulates what a company is, rather than just being the face of it and just leading it. I'm really, like this morning, I was bringing bars for my dancers and making sure that I have concessions for my patrons that are going to arrive on Saturday. So I'm really understanding all the different aspects of a nonprofit organization, which I'm thrilled to take on. And this big challenge, I think that I thrive in stress and thrive in challenges.
Well, I was going to ask you that because, well, first of all, if people are watching you, they also see you're still in extraordinary shape. So I'm wondering how that training that you did for all those years of dance can also be applied to the work that you're doing now and the discipline that you need to have now.
I mean, you hit it. Discipline. It really comes down to discipline, where you just have to continue to know the goal of what you want and to just keep going at it, even if you run into many mountains and walls, and figuring it, well, I don't need to break it down. I can figure out how to climb up. I can figure out how to go around it. I can figure out how to dissolve myself so that I can emerge on the other side. There's so many different ways of approaching things in life, or things that you're trying to build, that are not easy. It hasn't been an easy path for me, but if I don't do it, who will?
That last performance that you had, what was that for you?
Oh gosh, it was a beautiful time in my life where I had such all my dearest and nearest flew in, and of course it was my first time my parents ever saw me dance on a professional stage.
I was going to ask you that. I thought that I remembered you talking about that.
Yep.
And again, reminding people 20 years of dancing, and that was the first time. And you talked about that.
Yes, absolutely.
The last time, I can only imagine what that was like. And how cognizant of that were you as you were literally dancing on stage?
I mean, I think it made me dig even deeper of my why when I left home at age 14. It was hard to leave at 14, and knowing that once I leave, it's not going to be the same anymore. And I was going to this path of unknown, and I had to really be diligent enough to understand, like, okay, if I go, I'm making this decision to go for something that I don't even know if it will happen. And my parents didn't know either. They just supported me for the love of dance that I have still, and just dancing and having them there was so. I think the most important thing for me was for them to see that I've grown, not that 14-year-old boy who left home, that now I'm this 41-year-old man, married with 2 kids, and really making a life for myself, and also at the same time empowering emerging artists and helping others also emerge, because it's not about me. It's about the artists that are needing that look, or that hand, or that shift of, okay, here's an opportunity for you to work with a world-class choreographer. Let's make art. Let's see what art means to you. Let's question your art. Let's grow together. And that last show just really brought all the emotions and the experiences that I've had for the past more than 20 years, really, because when I started so young, I think what I remember saying to myself before I went on stage was like, damn, John, you're that 4-year-old boy who got made fun of, didn't have anybody really supporting you. You didn't know what was going to happen, but you did it. And to have that agency to look back and then actually step on stage and saying, wow, I've arrived, and I'm still arriving. I haven't arrived. I'm still arriving. And conversation with myself of reminding myself, I came from an immigrant family and I came from nothing, but yet I still achieved the things that I want. And I'm still achieving those things, being a professor, now being an artistic director, founding my own organization, my nonprofit dance company, and really trying to I think it's just the being of who I am is trying to spread what kind of impact can I leave here? Because to me, that's the most important, is impact for people.
Well, and I should point out, you went straight to the heart of something I love so much, which is the opening up your dress rehearsal tomorrow to 700 Boston Public School students, as I understand it, who will get to go for free.
Absolutely.
To experience dance. That is extraordinary.
Absolutely.
That's impact.
That kind of impact is very important to me, to really expose all those kids opportunity where they're really being exposed to live performing arts. And it will be a lecture demonstration performance where I get to actually speak to them, so they don't feel that they're just sitting down watching something obscure, because that could also be a little bit odd. So I kind of approach it on an academic / dance / approach where
/ dad. You know how to talk to kids.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm really thrilled. I can't wait to meet all of them, and I'm hoping that this is a partnership with the Boston Public School for a long time. But this is the first crack at it, so we're sold out to that, and I'm thrilled and can't wait to meet all of them to share them Lamb Dance Works.
Well, thank you for all that you've done in that regard. Congratulations on launching this, and best of luck on returning to the stage and bringing everyone else to the stage this weekend. John Lamb, thank you.
Thank you.
John Lamb is the founder and artistic director of Lamb Dance Works. The company's debut performance, Act 2, takes place this Saturday at the Emerson Paramount Center. For more information or to purchase tickets, go to lambdanceworks.org. Coming up, we're shaking and stirring things up with Boston cocktail icon Jackson Cannon. He joins us to raise our holiday spirits, talking about the craft, the culture, and his upcoming cocktail classes. He's next on The Culture Show. Stay with us.
Ago in Paris, 3 armed gunmen entered the Bataclan Theater during a show. This man was in the crowd.
Et ce qui revient, c'est j'allais dire une forme de tendresse pour celui que j'étais à l'époque. Et puis
he says he feels tenderness for the person he was and sadness for what happened. France's national trauma, next time on The World.
This afternoon at 3, here on GBH News 89.7.
Our programs are made possible thanks to you.
And Brookmeadow at Cobb Corner, an assisted living community offering wellness, care, and support services, including an on-site exercise physiologist to help seniors stay physically active. More at brookmeadowslr.com. And Rogers Fish Company, founded by Roger Berkowitz, offering an array of New England seafood and entrees shippable anywhere in the U.S. More at rogersfishcompany.com. And Fixed Dental, offering permanent teeth-on implants customized in their laboratory, enabling their doctors and technicians to oversee every aspect of the smile design. Learn more about all the treatments offered at Fixed at fixeddental.com.
The comments section has plenty of opinions. We have the facts. Trusted local news. GBH News 89.7, gbhnews.org, and streaming on the GBH app.
I'm Jared Bowen. This is The Culture Show, streaming live on our GBH News YouTube channel. For nearly 2 decades, Jackson Cannon has been shaking up Boston's cocktail scene, first behind the bar at Eastern Standard, and now as beverage director for ES Hospitality, home to some of the city's most celebrated restaurants. This season, he's inviting the public behind the bar with a new series of holiday cocktail classes, teaching us how to shake, stir, and serve like a pro. Not to mention think like one. He'll also help us navigate Boston's cocktail cocktail culture, from what's trending behind the bar to how to read those ever-growing drink menus with ease. Jackson Cannon joins us to talk about the art of the cocktail and how a few good lessons can turn anyone into a confident home bartender. Welcome to the Culture Show. It's great to have you here.
Hi, Jared. Great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Well, this is such a passion it has long been a passion of yours too, and now you're sharing it with people, not just in terms of what they're drinking, but how to do it.
I have been at it a while. I was doing it way before it was cool. We were hanging out after hours with musicians and bartenders who were just getting into craft in the late 90s. And we would just keep trying to push ourselves to make better drinks. Eventually, it took hold and became wildly popular. And then, I practiced right through to the era where no one could do it in public, and everybody became a little bit better of a home bartender. I mean, became a home bartender at least. And now it's just been great to see through all these experiences and all this time that there's an interested public, there's an interested young workers in the industry again. It's a really great time to be behind bars.
So where are we in this? If we look at the history of the cocktail, and especially the history of the cocktail in Boston, where would you say we are right now?
Well, that's a great question. I don't know how to relate it to other disciplines per se, but we have gotten our footing back. We always punched above our weight in the cocktail renaissance era. For a town that was smaller than New York or London, we were competitive, and a lot of that was due to how close-knit we were as bartenders, and we learned that from the chefs in our community. And so we represented, as they say, we came Boston strong to national and international events. We took COVID harder than, say, some of the Sunbelt markets and some of these other places around the world. So it has been a real rebuilding process, but I would say we're in a strong place now. Great young tenders behind the bars and really interesting cocktails and really interested guests. So that's what you need.
Well, let's start with talking about, maybe we can talk about a cocktail. You have a bar cart basically next to you that we've co-opted from our production group down the hall.
Yeah, I think it's a utility AV cart, but
at NPR we call that a bar cart.
Yeah, I'm there. It is today.
So, tell us what you're fashioning for the fall and this moment.
Okay, so I brought two different things. One, I did a fall version of an old fashioned, which I thought we'd get to in a little bit. But one of the really exciting things that we've been doing that's sort of proof of the emergence of the energy in the Boston scene is a lot of pop-ups. And we had the Mango Dao pop-up just this last week with Chef Ashley's amazing Filipino food. And the team crafted these great drinks. One of them is a milk punch, which is a really interesting process sport where you marry a lot of ingredients together. Fat wash is the sort of vernacular term. In the vernacular, you say that, and it means you add protein and then strain it out. So you have this really well-textured beverage that's pre-prepared and already mixed. So I brought some from the pop-up for everybody to try. I think it's a good first drink. This was made by Asta. It's with tequila, lemon, and coconut is the fat that we use, so it is dairy-free. We do with these, though, and this is one of the things we kind of cover in our moderate to advanced classes. Like, you can do that hard work over a couple of days, and then you have a bottle of something that's ready should you find yourself spontaneously entertaining, say, in a studio somewhere near you. So since it's batched and ready, it's easy for me just to pour by the count method, which I'm doing while I'm talking to you. I'm actually counting at the same time.
I don't know how you do that. I can't do that.
A little bit of music training get you there. And then we're going to stir it like a direct cocktail, like a martini or a Manhattan, over a little bit of ice.
And while you're doing that, I'll ask, tequila's having a comeback right now, isn't it?
Tequila is the strongest category in the country, and it's really exciting to see that even though some of that started with brands that were maybe sensational, popular, celebrity-backed, that weren't necessarily about tequila and its kind of noble place in Mexican spirits, but between both the groundwork that people really interested in agave spirits have laid and that kind of sensational aspect, as it's become this phenomenon, now you see even the general public doubling back and asking questions like, hey, where are the additive-free tequilas? Hey, where are the traditional method? What are you guys into? And so the call is becoming less strong for some brands that maybe don't take into account the environment and what they do to the place that they come from as much as others do. And it's returning kind of a spotlight onto like the best methods and practices. And we've been there all along behind the bar.
So it holds up if you bottle it. And now you've just, as you said, added ice and stirred.
Yeah, I don't know how this is going to look on the YouTube, but hopefully you can hear this pouring. You see how that's pouring
Well, I
out?
can see the monitor behind you, and it looks great.
Do you see how it's kind of wrapping around in the glass? We call that pouring a ribbon. And it was Joaquin Simo's famous cocktail bar that used that as a term. But it just means that the drinks that we like, these well-fashioned direct cocktails, when you've integrated the water into them, they're nice and cold and they're pouring right. They don't like bubble out. They don't flow out. They just kind of swirl down, which is kind of nice. And then I'm going to do a lemon twist. And I saved one to show you kind of an easy way at home that you can kind of clean them up and make them a little bit more professional. So you want to serve that. You just use a Y peeler to take that off the side of the fruit. And then it's just a simple matter.
That's how they always look so fantastic.
Right. And I'm not bound by them all looking identical, right? I just want the most of the twist that I can get with some straight lines. And this one looks like it wants to be cut this way. And then this one maybe wants a flat end. And now you have, things that are they're cleaned up, but they're individual, right?
So you're creating artwork as well with your twists.
And so I'm off the glass a little bit, so I'm not just completely dousing. I just want those middle weight oils. I think I can pass this over to you right here.
Okay, they always get nervous when things are passed over this board.
I bet they do.
I don't know what any of these buttons do, but
listen, I've been in a lot of studios over the years, mostly playing music, and we were drinking in them too. So most of the boards survived.
Oh, this looks beautiful. And again, we're streaming on our GBH News YouTube channel. It looks beautiful. It smells beautiful. It's this gorgeous purplish color. Oh, that's incredible. That is a beautiful taste.
Right, but you get all those flavors. You get that intensity of the tequila, that nice background of the citrus, the kind of warm, comforting baseline of the coconut. It has a hint of spice to it, and it all comes together from the hibiscus, which is also really floral, So.
And when you did the twist, of course, you literally twisted. For people who haven't heard this, or they see bartenders do it, but don't necessarily, or tenders do it, necessarily understand what's happening. It's really the release of the oils happening there.
It is, and so you want to use the outer skin, and you can see the inner pith, and you want to press this direction, and you don't necessarily want every oil. So as you hit this, some will go up, the heaviest ones will drop straight down, and the really juicy, pleasant ones go right in the middle. So we're generally off the glass a little bit. We hit it once, and in a certain light, you can kind of see it spray. And then sometimes we will rim a little because most of the heavy is dropped away, and then we want to set it the right side up so that you see it, but also those oils are still going up into the air, right? So it has a real effect.
For people who are just tuning in, I'm speaking with Jackson Cannon, beverage director at ES Hospitality. His upcoming cocktail classes at Eastern Standard Kitchen and Drinks are Sunday, November 16th and Sunday, December 14th. What is your process for refining and finding new drinks? We certainly have cookbook authors all the time who months and months and months. What is your process?
Well, so I'm a collaborator by nature. I am in this business as a kind of communal endeavor. When I played music, I played a supportive instrument most of the time, bass, and so I just am naturally comfortable when I have ideas and I can share them with people. They have ideas, they can share them with me. When we come together and we try and find what's the best version of all these ideas wrapped up together. These days my role is more likely to be listening to a younger tender in a certain pursuit of their mixology, and they'll be going down an avenue, and I've seen enough of the elements of that over the years that I can provide them some context, so and then we'll try it and we go back and forth, and by the time it's done, it's ours, and those are usually the best.
And I understand it's been a particular joy for you to help people who come in to evolve their cocktails too, especially if they have a go-to or a favorite, to kind of enhance it somewhat.
Yeah, well, that's a whole other show about drink families and kind of like lineage and legacy of certain cocktails. But yeah, just the long and short of it is we're constantly through sort of the discipline of bartender's choice. We're trying to figure out what makes you tick, right? So if you come up and say, I drink mojitos, you're giving us a great starting space. Sometimes you have to drag it out of someone, do you ever drink Manhattans because they want to be drinking what's now. They want to be drinking what's from there, right? So they don't want to tell you their standards all the time. Once you get that, you can realize, okay, down the Manhattan route are several direct cocktails, one of which is on our menu now, or one of which is an original. Down the mojito route, again, other modern classics like the Old Cuban, that's a staple of ours, created by Audrey Saunders in 2005. And, so that matrix that we work in really helps us keep offering you both classics, but also to create newer cocktails or steer you towards them based on what you've already said you will like in terms of balance and presentation.
One thing I also understand, we're hearing so much, and maybe this is the media taking hold again, but that the people are drinking less. And I think you've said that's not necessarily the case, but there is something called zebra-ing.
So there's a lot to unpack in that. The macro trends cannot be denied. Generationally, they're not drinking like the generation before. And a lot of people are watching their intake, and some people, and it's a general health benefit. Some people are, using supplements to kind of change both their behavior and the physical outcomes. So we celebrate all of those things. We recognize them in the space, but it only means that they want the drinks that they do have to count more, and that the non-alcoholic versions of cocktails that have been on the rise are ever more important to get right. We used to make a cocktail menu and think, which of these can I do without alcohol, and it'll be somewhat close. Now we have products behind us that are bitters and amaros and base spirits that are zero proof. We have beautiful Prosecco's that are non-alcoholic, right? So we can actually create in the non-alcoholic space first and think back, hey, which one of these would be okay if we had some gin, right? So that part of it's been really evocative and interesting. And zebraing is people who want to come out, really have an experience, but don't want to drink as much alcohol as before. So they're alternating between full strength, low proof, and no proof at all.
Fascinating. We have about 5 minutes left, so we'll maybe shift to what people are preparing for fall or what you're encouraging for fall, incorporating some of the trends.
Right. So this is an old-fashioned. You can't get any more canonical than, if that's a word, than this in kind of the history of cocktails. But we're doing a fall version. It's really our permanent version at ES. It's sort of a New England version, but I love to highlight it this time of year because we use the Mad River Maple Bourbon along with Elijah Craig's bourbon. We use Benedictine, which is a great chameleon of a French liqueur that has like these great notes of honey and nut and a lot of different kind of like components, over 40 ingredients. And so they all kind of come together that with a set of flavors I feel is really New England and is certainly appropriate for this time. And it highlights another way that we can make drinks a little bit faster in the bar and make them well at home. So I'm just doing bitters right in the glass.
So you start with the bitters.
Yes, we tend to do that in the bar space. There's a lot of different talk about why, but basically bitters have alcohol in them, and you want to get this mixed with whatever sugar you're doing if you're doing the old style. So it's very traditional to do that. In these batches, bitters kind of go to sleep. So I've put together the other elements of this old-fashioned so that I can do it as a straight serve. But if you put the bitters in there, the math of it doesn't quite work because bitters is sort of the spice, sort of the salt. Yeah. Like you have to add it at the last time. It's a catalyst as much as it is a flavor, right? So the rest of these ingredients can be right in here, but you want your bitters in the glass first. And then I'm gonna pouring it like this. You can do this and let these sit out on a board for hours. You could be at a party where you've done this much of it ahead of time, and you don't have to do another thing until somebody wants one, and then you just get yourself some ice.
And again, for people who aren't watching, you just put the bitters in first, and then your pre-made bottle, you just poured that in, you're adding ice now. This is a much better way to be hosting. I don't know why I didn't start doing this a long time ago for my own parties.
Yeah, and we have different ways of doing this that we'll show in the class on Sunday of like how to make a bottle batch with citrus that you can aerate and then just top with champagne at the end. So you can have very festive cocktails that you don't think are batchable, but you can have them ready to go in that sense. And I didn't want to overwhelm you. So I didn't bring the freezer martinis. But if you have me back in the winter when we're doing the martini class again, I will bring you that and show you how that's done.
Well, I will definitely have you back, and I am definitely a martini guy. That is my typical drink of choice. So
hopefully I made enough of these for the crew, because I know that they're wrapping up this segment soon. But anyway, again, we did these twists the same way, just waiting out there, and I'll give you the big one.
And I should point out, you walked into the studio asking me if I had another segment today. I think you were taking a measure of my tolerance.
I felt that was a responsible thing to do.
All right, this is the old-fashioned. Oh, that's fantastic. Really, I love bourbon. I've actually been to the Elijah Craig Distillery.
That's an excellent
I did the Kentucky Bourbon Trail.
Good
for you. A fabulous pilgrimage, especially if you love horses and that landscape down there. Well, we just have about a minute left, but I just want to ask about what you're doing all in the vastness of the Eastern Standard Universe.
This is our busiest time of year. It's really, really great. Besides the classes that we're leading in equal measure, Standard's holiday service. We're open Thanksgiving and Christmas. They're two of my favorite days in the restaurant every year. And at Standard Italian, we have an exciting set of things going on this winter, this season, especially the Feast of Seven Fishes, which will be available on multiple nights. So just a really great time to be there. A lot of holiday parties everywhere, a lot of holiday activity at lunch. And we have the gingerbread decorating thing that's like been a long-standing ES tradition. That's just madness, candy everywhere. If you see that one, that's kind of, if you have kids, it's perfect. If you're like a young professional that likes to just like be in a wild environment for something like that, it's also fun. So
cocktails and candy everywhere. Two of my favorite phrases I didn't even realize until this show today. Thank you so much for being here, for all that you imparted, and I look forward to having you back this winter.
Thank you. Great to be here.
Jackson Cannon is beverage director at ES Hospitality. His upcoming cocktail classes at Eastern Standard Kitchen and Drinks are Sunday, November 16th and Sunday, December 14th. Visit easternstandard.boston.com/events or check the experiences section on Open Table to reserve your spot. Thank you for listening to another edition of The Culture Show. Tune in tomorrow or join us live at the Boston Public Library for our Arts and Culture Week in Review. We'll talk about the cinematic white smoke coming out of the Vatican this week as Pope Leo reveals his favorite films, plus our 2 cents on the end of the penny. Thanks to the crew who produced our YouTube stream today, Colin Cockrell, Eddie Hickey, and Sai Patel. I'm Jared Bowen. Have a great day.
The Culture Show is made possible in part by a generous contribution from the Fiducia Fund, proud to support this station's arts and culture programming.
Spend your afternoon with us. Stay with us for GBH's All Things Considered at 4 and Marketplace at 6:30. But first, the world. A global view of today's headlines from the World Newsroom, right here on GBH 89.7.
Support for our programs comes from you.
And the Boston Globe, presenting Do We Need Another Massachusetts Miracle? A conversation where business, policy, and community voices explore how we can rebuild the middle class. November 19th at Globe Summit. globe.com/summit. In the wake of a shooting spree at 2 abortion clinics near Boston, leaders on opposing sides of the debate meet in secret and discover they have more in common than they think. Watch Local USA, Public Enemies, Private Friends, tonight at 9 on GBH2.
I'm Soraya Wintersmith in for Arun Roth. Coming up on GBH's All Things Considered, with the government shutdown ending, local federal workers are back on the job. And in Somerville, activists are pressing the city to follow through on a voter-backed call to divest from companies doing business with Israel. Those stories and all the day's headlines starting at 4 on GBH's All Things Considered.
You're listening to 89.7 WGBH HD1 Boston. Online at